What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 9SC, Chapter 201, What a Miserable One Sengoku. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. This is Marine's future, Marine's hope. Fujitora can't gamble, and doesn't dare to gamble. Once it fails, the price must be that Marine is completely in danger, and Marine, who is empty inside, will also usher in a period of time when he has the weakest control over the sea. The bloody and stormy sea will surely set off one bloody war after another. Although his eyes were tightly closed, Fujitora seemed to see a future in which corpses were scattered everywhere. If it was a Kainu, it might be possible to eradicate evil at all costs. But he is Fujitora, even if he will risk other people's lives, but this is Marine's future. Tens of thousands of faces slipped through Fujitora's heart, and his final choice was to back down. Let them go. As for that thing, there is always a chance. Marine's goal is not only the Straw Hats, but also the endless sea. Fujitora's face was filled with helplessness. As far as 893 is concerned, politics is full of compromises, and so is fighting. Che, as expected of you. The green cow glanced at his mouth, his handsome face could not clearly see the joy and anger. However, he submissively restrained his strength, making Zoro, who was nervous on the opposite side, secretly relieved. If I can choose, I also want to take back Venus Luo in one fell swoop. I don't want to let the Straw Hats go so easily, but who knew that the arrangement we had prepared for so long would be known by the other party? Right, Kizaru. Fujitora smiled at Kizaru next to him. Clearly his eyes were tightly closed, but Kizaru felt like he was being seen through from top to bottom. This guy. A drop of incomparably cold sweat emerged from Kizaru's head, and was instantly wiped out by the photons escaping from his body. Hey, that's it. The Straw Hats are too keen to notice my arrangement on the field so quickly. He pretended to be calm, accompanied Fujitora with awkward smiles, and the already wretched expression became even more exaggerated. My heart was secretly bitter and regretful. Damn it. Why did he have to brainstorm in the first place and reveal the news of Marine's ambush to Bai Yu? After doing this now, he was put together by this guy again. Originally, I wanted to work hard and clean the feces bowl that Bai Yu had buckled on myself. As a result, before the old dirty water was in a hurry, the new feces pot was buckled up again. Am first really a marine traitor? The monkey spirit's Kizaru, began to doubt himself. But I'm really a red heart to Marine, I just want to eat salted fish every day and wait to die, clock in and get off work. Kizaru's inner villain roared up to the sky, and always felt that the corners of his eyes were wet. Kizaru, what's wrong with the corner of your eye? Got hurt by that guy's lightning. Fujitora raised his cane and pointed at this guy's wretched face, an unknown object hung in the corner of his eyes, glittering in the sunlight. No, it's all right, it's just that the wind and sand are fascinated. Kizaru wiped the corners of his eyes without a trace, but fortunately he had glasses to cover it up, leaving him the last bit of a thin face, so as not to shed tears in public. However, this is the sea, and the wind and sand come from Mian. In Fujitora, which pot is not opened, which pot is not mentioned? Kizaru's face darkened, and he struggled weakly. That's the sand that you fought too hard and splashed. The green cow on the side was too lazy to expose these two living treasures. Dignified Marine Admiral, Logia's top expert, was fascinated by the aftermath of the battle. This explanation is too nonsense. The three of them said saliva like this, quietly watching Upso run all the way, and ran into the large army with 2 lines of tears. It was Sengoku on the marine warship. An old man who has worked diligently for many years and finally stepped down from the position of marshal. I originally thought that I was just here to collect and assist and be responsible for the work of raising the flag. As a result, the reality was forced to become the main force, and the Straw Hats were forced to focus on the fire, and in the ardent hopes of tens of thousands of Marines behind them, they couldn't take a step back. The body of the Buddha, which looks like a golden light, was actually suffocated with internal injuries, and he almost vomited blood and died. What a miserable man. It makes people smell sad, and the listeners weep. Miserable home. Shuttling through the battlefield, after a burst of electric sparks and lightning, Upso, who has a heavy responsibility, finally meets everyone in the Straw Hats in the eyes of everyone. Hey, to actually let Upso go and take Bai Yu through the battlefield, these Marines don't plan to make a move, do they want to give up? Manipulating the electromagnetic force and bouncing on his hand, Nami was very puzzled. Ho ho ho. It must be these Qinghai people, who are afraid of the power of my god, defeated by the majesty of my god, and dare not make a move, so they surrendered. Bai Yu fainted out of force, and Enel's state of middle 2 showed signs of deepening again. Cut. I see that if you continue to spread your weapons, it will be more than just the majesty of the gods. I'm afraid that you will be beaten by Bai Yu. The cute pet chopper pouted, super unconcerned. Ha ha ha. First think it's Marine on the opposite side, it's right to be afraid of us. The nerve-wracking, mindless Luffy rarely speaks the truth. Perhaps because of the lack of brains, the intuition of a rubber product is always extraordinarily sensitive. However, none of the people present believed this reason. After all, Marine, who suppressed the entire sea, seemed to be a little weak even after the summit war. But the impression over the years, how can it be so easy to change? How could such a behemoth be afraid of himself, to the extent that he would not even dare to take action? Definitely a conspiracy, a big conspiracy. Except for the incomparable Enel, who was second in the middle, and Luffy, who was thick and nervous, everyone else looked at the three Admiral and the tens of thousands of Marines behind them. His face was extremely dignified, full of seriousness and dare not be careless. While guarding against possible attacks, he carefully protected Bai Yu, who was fainting. Right here, in the confrontation between the two sides of the hemp stick and the wolf. Woohoo! A huge roar sounded from 0.0 on the marine warship. The fleet under Fujitora's order, with the help of the cover of the Great Buddha, sailed into the distance and disappeared at the end of the sea. I hope that you can do it yourself. The power of the world government is not as simple as you think. Fujitora faced Straw Hat Crew with a complicated expression. The growth rate of these guys is far beyond his expectations. Back then, I was quite optimistic about them and wanted to support them in order to counteract the old forces of the four emperors at sea, form a confrontation between the old and the new, and relieve Marines' pressure. Unexpectedly, Straw Hat Crew gained momentum so quickly and developed into such a huge force. If they were allowed to take Wanokuni as their base, the second pirate emperor who was as powerful as the original Whitebeard would be born. Now the young generation at sea is really a monster. Chapter 202. The Power of Destruction Controlled. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. A few days later. The blue sea and the blue sky are the same color, and the long-lost piece appears above the sea. An incomparably exquisite ship, slowly advancing on the broad sea, is the exclusive car of the Straw Hats gang, Thousand Sunny. When Bai Yu woke up, he picked up the water glass by the bed and took a big gulp, like a traveler in the desert who finally encountered the water source. Ganson's radiant feeling rose from within his body, which made him feel a lot better. Bai Yu regained his senses, wiped off the water stains from his mouth, and looked at the familiar scene of the cabin, and was suddenly stunned. I'm back. Bai Yu used his strength to look inside his body. He could clearly feel the powerful heartbeat, and he couldn't see any scars on his body. Even Bai Yu felt that he had never felt so comfortable before. It was constantly emerging from the limbs and bones, as if inexhaustible power made him always have the urge to jump into the sea and find someone to fight. Just do it. The resolute Bai Yu immediately got out of bed and walked towards the deck. But 12. Before taking 2 steps, he met Nami, who was holding food and warm water, followed by the group pet's little follower, Chopper. Bai Yu, you finally woke up. Everyone is worried to death. Seeing Bai Yu jumping around, Nami threw away the tray in his hand and hugged him excitedly. I'm fine. How many days have I been in a coma? Bai Yu couldn't help shaking his dizzy head and asked Nami. You've been in a coma for 3 days and 3 nights, and you've been in a coma. Everyone is worried to death. If it wasn't for Chopper who kept saying that you were fine, I would have. Nami couldn't help wiping away her tears. Usually, there was only Bailey's little thief cat in his eyes, and the tears in his eyes tended to grow stronger and stronger. 3 days. So long. Of course, do you think you're lightly injured? You'll be brave, idiot. Nami loves it and hates it, glaring at Bai Yu with a complicated expression. With a look of hope and brilliance, Bai Yu looks like a small feather in his heart, constantly scratching and scratching. Send. Hair on your head. As if he had discovered a new continent, Nami suddenly pointed at Bai Yu's head and squeaked. My hair. What happened to my hair? Bai Yu felt very strange in his heart. Since he woke up, he felt better than ever before, after slashing Bigmom and defeating Kaido. Not only did not leave the slightest dark wound, but he was healthier than before, and his physique was at least doubled. Look, Nami took out a mirror from his body and handed it over as if by magic. What? Bai Yu was frightened and ran away. The white hair that was originally snow white turned into a black color. I'm going. This fight, with hair dye. He finally got used to the appearance of his white hair. It was only 2 days ago, but when he woke up, he turned back to his dark appearance. It's not the non-mainstream people who like gray hair, it's just that the changes are too fast, and some people can't adapt. Yes, in this case. With a flash of inspiration, Bai Yu seemed to have thought of something, and quickly probed his body carefully. Really, it was just a cursory introspection just now, and I didn't find anything serious. Now, after carefully examining it from the inside to the outside, Bai Yu finally realized something was wrong in his body. Absorbed from Whitebeard, it is said to come from a mysterious power that he himself does not know. The place of destruction that had been lurking in his body, could not find a trace, and did not know where it was hiding, finally showed a clue. The dark power, like the size of a mung bean, was entrenched on his heart, as if it was enhancing his own power by the rhythm of his heartbeat. The seemingly unremarkable black spots are inconspicuous things that will be ignored if you are not careful. If you look into the past carefully, you can feel a force of destruction that is above all devil fruit, like the annihilation of the world. It's finally here. Bai Yu couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. There was always a time bomb hidden in his body, and the point was that he didn't even know where he was, which really put a lot of pressure on Bai Yu. If it weren't for the system, Bai Yu would have panicked long ago. Now, this guy finally showed his true form. More importantly, Bai Yu discovered that he could actually control this terrifying force of destruction. Although it can't be said to be as pointed by the arm, it can be as handy as the power obtained from the system. But in the end, it wasn't. It was always inactive and inactive. Is there any use of purely looking at the situation of God's will? Beautiful. Bai Yu. The corner of his mouth curved and he laughed. He was still very content, never insatiable. Hey, Bai Yu, are you awake? Nami and these Amaterasu take care of you, but they make us complain to death, and let us. An elongated rubber arm poked its head out of the cabin entrance. Luffy, who happened to arrive, looked at Bai Yu's familiar figure, first was happy, and then spit out bitter tears, showing how much grievances he has suffered these days. Luffy. Nami raised his eyebrows on his hips, looking like a dominatrix, which made Luffy shudder in fright, not daring to vomit again. Woo, Deputy Captain, you finally woke up. I thought you. Lahuo, Vice Captain, you finally got up. Enel, the middle of the road monster, whispers in our ears every day, don't, my mouth. Bastard, don't talk about my bad 893 words. Ming let's sing a concerto. What's so fun about singing? Let's eat something. Awakened by the voices of Nami and Luffy, everyone in the straw hats came over after hearing the news, and surrounded by Yu weeping and playing, the whole room was filled with joyful laughter. After a while of frolic, everyone quieted down. Only then did he slowly tell Bai Yu what happened that day after he fainted from strength. So, Marine really did his best, and the focus of the target is very likely to be on Jin Kunluo in my hands. Bai Yu's expression darkened, thoughtful. It seems that Marine values him much more than he imagined. If so, then, that guess is very likely to be true. That's right, Kizaru and Fujitora, both came for it, very Momoshiki and the two of them. Zoro affirmed. However, why they suddenly retreated in the end is really confusing. Robin touched his head in confusion, even though it was Marine who even dispatched Buster Call, there would be a day when he would return without success. A raging fire burned in his eyes. Even if the strength is not what it used to be, Buster Call still has a different meaning to her. Chapter 203. The Banquet and the Dog-Headed Ship. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. Cut. Leave them alone. Anyway, the Marines have all withdrawn, and we have reached a safe zone, and now that Bai Yu is awake, we won't suffer. To celebrate Bai Yu's safe waking up, I propose a banquet to celebrate. The nervous Luffy cheered excitedly. I agree. Sanji is finally back and I need to have a good meal. Zoro agreed. Ha ha ha, then let me show off my skills today. Robin-chan, Nami-san. Bang bang, it hurts. Sanji raised his sleeves with a look of Chunji-e, and greeted two big bags on his head. The face that was still happy just now turned into tears in an instant. Cough, I'm also looking forward to dishes that will shine. Yeah, I must have a good meal today. Coke, cola, carbonated, none of them can be missing. Amid the cheers of Luffy, everyone quickly threw Marine's affairs to Java, and happily started a banquet. With the rich aroma diffused on the boat, plates of luminous dishes were gradually brought out by Nami and a few people from the kitchen, and they were placed neatly on the long deck table. It smells good. Eat meal. I want to eat meat. Holding a knife in one hand and a fork in the other, Luffy, who had been drooling for a long time, couldn't wait to shout while wiping the saliva from the corner of his mouth. It turned into rubber with one hand, popped out with lightning speed, and took a piece directly from the pile of meat in the tray. I just wanted to take a sip to relieve the pain while no one was paying attention, but the aroma hasn't smelled in my stomach yet. The next moment, an electromagnetic flash suddenly lit up in the air. Stupidly, he smashed the piece of meat in Luffy's hand. Electromagnetic gun. Stupid Luffy. Bai Yu is the main reason for this, he hasn't eaten yet. Nami's sweet drink, followed by the electromagnetic flash, rang in Luffy's ear. With the rubber restraining the thunder and lightning, Luffy resisted with a shot. Although his body was a little charred, he didn't care. The world is big, and the meat is the biggest. Nay. It's delicious, Sanji, your cooking has improved again. Swallowing the hard-to-get meat in his hand, Luffy showed an extremely satisfied expression on his face, and gave a thumbs up to Sanji, who was sticking his head out of the kitchen. Touching the oil stain on the corner of his mouth, Luffy glanced at his mouth and said nonchalantly. Why not so much, and Sanji can still make it, it's not good at all, even if I try it first, it's nothing special. Idiot Luffy, who's talking about enough food? This is for Bai Yu's celebration feast. You ate it even before the dishes were ready. Nami looked angry. As he said that, he bounced another coin to give this stupid captain a good look. Of course not from Wanokuni, the newly received seastone coins, just the leftover ordinary ones. Alright, if you're celebrating, isn't it just for fun? Everyone just eats as much as you want, and you don't have to worry about so much. Seeing these two live treasures, they were about to make a fuss again. Bai Yu came out quickly, and Nami, who lived in the building, played the original game. Look, Bai Yu said it's all right. Just a little. Wow, I also want a delicious carbonated drink, I must drink it today. With Bai Yu on his side, Luffy's confidence instantly rose. Idiot. Nami gritted his teeth. I wanted to say something else, but after feeling the temperature on my back and chest, I couldn't help but feel hot on my face. The little thief cat becomes a hot spring cat in seconds. Huh, someone seems to be approaching us. Enel suddenly spoke, and the thunder surged and looked into the distance. Originally, it was just that I didn't eat dog food hard, so I was so bored that I put my heart out, but I didn't expect to capture a bit of different information. On the vast sea that was originally empty, a small ship sailed out of nowhere. Although the ship is not large, its speed should not be underestimated. Guy, breaking through the calm waves and approaching the sunshine miles at a fast speed. It's him. Bai Yu frowned slightly. He also probed the past in the direction that Enel pointed. Bai Yu, who is the same as him, or even more knowledgeable, naturally has a panoramic view of everything with the help of Heart Gang. This guy, what are you doing here at this time? On the indifferent face, there is a touch of complexity and doubts. Ah, is there really someone? Who is it? Could it be? Marine caught up. Wow, shit, I'm going to die. I'm sick when I see strangers. Let's go, Franky, blast with the wind. Just when Upso made up the nonsensical serious illness, a familiar dog-headed boat appeared at the end of the endless sea. At a fast speed, they approached the sunshine miles. Grandpa, why are you here? Luffy, who was burying his head and eating, suddenly raised his head, looked at the familiar figure, and couldn't help but let out a loud cry. Idiot. Of course, as Marine, I'm trying to capture you stupid pirate back. Garp, wearing a dog hat, stood up from the boat and reached out to touch the cannonball beside him. Fist bone meteorite. He threw the cannonball out of his hand, and the ordinary cannonball showed a different kind of power in Garp's hand. Boom. At the speed of breaking the sound barrier, it rapidly impacts in the air, like a meteorite falling from the sky, dragging a long flame tail, and it is powerful at first glance. 60 million volts Thunder Beast. Enel's eyes narrowed, the golden stick in his hand fluttered, and he sounded the drum behind him. The surging thunder bloomed on the body, condensed into a ferocious thunder beast, and leapt towards the sky. It collided directly with the cannonball meteorite that fell toward the sunshine miles. Ka. After a loud bang, a gorgeous Qian Nuohao fireworks exploded in the sky. In the smoke of gunpowder, there were also thunderstorms raging. Ah, Grandpa, why are you hitting my boat? With the unfinished half of the roast still hanging from his mouth, Luffy's face was full of confusion and innocence. Humph. The stinky grandson who doesn't stop talking. Let's try the iron fist that my grandfather loves. Garp snorted coldly, a gloomy look on his face. Abandoning the marine soldiers next to him, he stomped hard on the deck. Under the powerful force, his whole body turned into a cannonball. It quickly smashed towards the sunshine miles. 200 million volts ray. Enel's pupils shrank, and he was good at covering himself with long-range firepower. Not daring to be careless, he immediately turned on full power, just about to make a big move to force Garp back. The next moment, a pair of warm palms stepped over the thunder that strayed from his body and pressed onto his shoulders unscathed. Tool. Chapter 204. Freedom. Huh. Enel looked at Bai Yu in confusion. Don't be in a hurry, let him come over and talk. Bai Yu replied. Although Garp is indeed the strongest in physique, getting closer to him is the most beneficial to his strength. But, no matter what, you won't be dizzy, just jump into the base camp of your gang for a decisive battle. Even a guy of the same era as Roger, who pushed Roger into a dangerous place several times, is now old and frail, not as good as before. Acting so rashly, in all likelihood, Bai Yu has another plan to control the power of destruction, and Bai Yu, who is confident in his own strength, decides to let him come. Looking at him, what kind of medicine is being sold in the gourd? Besides, instead of looking at the monk's face and looking at the Buddha's face, this old man is also Luffy's grandfather. Boom. Like a falling cannonball, Garp caused a wave of air, but did not cause any damage to the deck under his feet, which shows his high degree of control over power. Bastard boy. Grandpa came and still eat, come and taste my love iron fist. After landing on the deck, Garp did not jump up and attack the thunderous Enel. Instead, it was head on, and Luffy, who was digging his head to eat, hammered. An act of love. It hurts. People sit at home, disaster comes from the sky, and they are still immersed in delicious food, Luffy. In the blink of an eye, the mood fell from heaven to hell. The 893 hand plugs, whose face was full of pain, and the rubber head that was not afraid of blows, were abruptly smashed by Garp into two large bags stacked in the shape of a gourd. Grandpa, what are you doing? I'm still eating. Luffy shook his head, disgruntled. Of course it's to wake you up and let you go back to the right path. But I'm very happy with my companions now. Grandpa, don't think about it, I'm going to be a good thief king. Luffy akimbo laughs, but his eyes are filled with determination. Then let me see your temperament. Good grandson, Garp said solemnly. He was giggling all the time, and the seemingly nonsensical him finally became serious, and an indescribable power rose from him. The weaker members of the Straw Hats felt like they were out of breath. It wasn't until Bai Yu raised his brows and released his haki to break this dignified aura that they felt much better. Come on then. Putting down the knife and fork in his hand, Luffy also showed a serious expression. 8 inner gates, dead gates. Infinite power, BCAA, rises from the limbs and bones. Luffy, who knows his grandfather well, doesn't dare to let go. To save him from being hammered for a few more bags, he opened the 8 gates directly. Anyway, as a rubber man, the meridians of the 8 inner gates' side effects were completely cut off, and it was not threatening to him at all. Rubber machine gun. Luffy, who broke the human body's restriction valve and exploded with unprecedented strength, is extremely strong. The rubber arm turned into an afterimage, and the punch was faster than the punch, and it hit the front quickly. The speed that cannot be captured by the naked eye is simply jaw-dropping. Among the Straw Hats, there are probably not 10 who can clearly see this attack, let alone resist it. Humph. Good time. Garp's face was black. It's been a long time since the little grandson who was crying with his head in his arms dared to wave his fist at him. This time we must let him know what is grandfather's love. Garp didn't dodge or evade, but instead rushed up to meet him. Although he is old, his body is not weakened at all, and his fists come first, directly tying Luffy's machine gun-like speed. Bang bang bang. In the blink of an eye, in a burst of fists and palms, the grandfather and grandson fought hundreds of punches. And not only the speed, but also the strength is far beyond ordinary. A sound barrier blasting, and the distorted vibration of the air, sounded one after another on the deck, and the huge wind pressure brought by the fists made people unable to open their eyes. Wow, this wind is too strong, even the sea is stirred. Ooh, I'm going to the cabin, I got a sickness that would kill me if blown by the wind. Pure flesh can also create this kind of power. The shadows of fists all over the sky rise and fall, and the person who sees them is dazzled. Near the Sunshine Miles, the calm waters were also leaked by the wind pressure, causing bursts of waves. But, after all, Ginger is still old and spicy. The plot of chaotic fists killing the old master will only appear on TV. As the rounds between grandfather and grandson got longer and longer, the places where Luffy's rubber arm was smashed by Garp became more and more. Although it wouldn't bruise immediately, the speed of the rubber machine gun slowed down uncontrollably. Good grandson. You'd better go back with my grandfather and return to the right path. You should be enough for being self-willed for so long. After gradually gaining the upper hand, Garp's dark face finally showed a smile. This kid is finally going to die. It's been a long time since I saw him. If he drags it on, he might not be able to hold him down if he doesn't use the ultimate trick. Garp, who seemed to be winning on the surface, could not help but breathe a sigh of relief in secret. In the end, it is still old and frail, and the stamina is not as good as before. I won't go back with you. I'm the man who wants to become One Piece. Luffy looked at Garp seriously, his eyes filled with determination. With a pure heart, he will never turn back easily once he has identified one thing. Grandpa, let's try this trick. Zizai. Extreme inspiration. Open. A low voice sounded from Luffy. The jet black hair was rendered silver by nameless power, and even the eyeballs were rendered dazzling silver. Unique flavor, rising from the thick line of Luffy. Aloof, powerful, ancient. It seems that it does not belong to the mortal world, it is placed in the legend, and it is above the gods. What a powerful force. Garp's pupils shrank. Garp's heart was lifted by the strange stance that suddenly appeared on Luffy. The terrifying oppression, even him, couldn't help but raise a strong fear. The original idea of suppressing Luffy and letting him obey, was instantly thrown out of the sky by him. If you are careless, you will most likely lose. Even die. In a short period of time, it has grown to such a level that even me. Ha ha ha, as expected of my Garp's grandson. Garp's face turned cloudy, and Luffy's powerful presence did not make him unhappy, but made him feel better. Then let me come and measure your gas. I want to be the grandson of One Piece. Putting aside all the calculations in his heart, Garp's eyes rose with a strong fighting intent. In the blood-boiling heart, there is only one thing left, battle. On the sea of countless possibilities, strength is always the absolute main theme. Chapter 205. The Sunshine Mile is about to be destroyed. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. Garp's eyes narrowed, and his indifferent face showed a long-lost heroic look. The pitch-black armament hockey came out quietly, wrapped around his proud iron fist. It's like treating Luffy as an equal, even tougher enemy. In a trance, Garp felt as if he had returned to the time when he was chasing Roger on the sea. Blood is on fire. Boom. Ling Ran's aura came from Garp. The marine hero Garp, who fought against the sea and hunted down Roger with his own power, forced him to a desperate situation many times, finally reappeared on the blue and clear sea. The boundless hockey, the abrupt and the conscious and the physical, and the Luffy who has the power of the gods, compete with each other, and they are comparable. Even if it was, Luffy couldn't fully control Zizai's inspirational skill, and it was still in its infancy. That's scary enough. This is God's royal skill, the gesture of stepping into the realm of God. Heaven, the clouds in the sky is cracked. Relying on the momentum of confrontation, the two of them pierced a hole in the sky. Looking at it from a distance, it seems like the sky is cracked. Woo, I'm really leaving. Franky, take me in, I really have a disease that will kill me if I get hit by the momentum. I didn't expect Luffy to be so strong, but my swordsmanship will definitely not be weaker than yours. Shanghai people, so strong. Can the captain win? This old man looks so terrifying. Just as everyone's much anticipated duel was going on, a petite figure suddenly appeared. Mary, are you coming to see the fun too? Seeing the familiar villain, the cute pet chopper also took the initiative to say hello. Watching the fun. If you keep watching, you will have to fall into the water and drink sea water. Little lowly Meili said with a look of resentment on her waist. Falling into water to drink sea water. Chopper was confused. Could it be that Marine Corps is coming? Luffy's grandpa is just here to hold us down. Marine is coming. Franky, hurry up, activate the wind to break through. Enel, hurry up and input your thunder power. I have a disease that will kill me when first see Marine, hurry up. No, in my heart, I didn't sense any sign of a large-scale ship approaching. Enel shook his head, ignoring Usopp, who made up his medical history indiscriminately. Through the combination of radio waves and the ability of the heart network, Enel used to be able to monitor the entire Sky Island, not to mention the stronger now. The surrounding waters were all under his control, and even Kayan couldn't escape his heart, not to mention the huge marine fleet. No Marine. Upso's tears filled his eyes. Idiot. Who said there were Marines? I mean they fought. You don't think the Sunshine Miles can withstand the aftermath of the battle between the two of them? Meili couldn't help covering her forehead, she was about to cry stupidly by these guys. What? Aftermath? Meili's words awakened the dreamer, and everyone in the Straw Hats came back to their senses. With Luffy and his grandfather and grandson, the fight became more and more devoted, and the aftermath escaped uncontrollably. Before, with only 8 inner gates open, Luffy could barely control his power precisely, and Garp, who had the upper hand, had enough power to dispel his power. But these two people, one opened the Master's incomplete freedom, and the other rekindled their blood and left them behind, exerting the strongest force. With all his strength, it will also take care of the aftermath of the battle. Haven't started the official fight yet. It was just the momentum confrontation in the accumulating force, and the wooden planks on the Sunshine Miles were lifted a lot. This ship is indeed the capital of the Seven Waters. But you also have to think about who you are fighting against. The new Emperor of the Sea, and Marine's strongest Vice Admiral, and it's a showdown of martial arts. Even if it is to smash an island to the ground, or even change the weather of a place, it is a routine operation, not to mention a mere ship. If it really broke out and fought at full strength, the Sunshine Miles would definitely only end up as Meili said. No, you can't fight, and if you fight again, the ship will be destroyed. Stupid Luffy, stop now, it's going to be a lot of money to buy another boat. Oops, they don't seem to respond at all. What to do? Under the hurried shouting of the Straw Hats, whether it was Luffy or Garp, there was no response at all. On the contrary, their already powerful aura became more and more like a sea as time passed. For flowers oh. As if, both of them were immersed in their minds and fell into a deeper level of energy accumulation. It is difficult to have any effect on them by shouting orally. Nami wanted to forcibly wake up Luffy, buying a new boat is a lot of money. However, the strong coercion exuded by the two of them made her unable to move an inch. Unless, with the coin minted by Seastone, the supermagnetic gun is used at full power, and the ore they create is broken. Otherwise, her ordinary hockey cultivation base would not be able to get close to her at all. Oops, can I just let the captain fight? It's true that the ship can be rebuilt if it is destroyed, but I can't swim. I can swim, but I have a disease that will kill me when I touch the sea. Let's find a way to make the captain and the others stop. Boom. After a short accumulation of energy, the aura that the two of them brewed became more and more intense. Ling B's wind pressure was so strong that people couldn't lift their heads. On Thousand Sunny's strong fence, deep scars were cut by the air pressure, and the sails on the mast were also blown out of the hole by the bulging air. Fighting, it's time to start. Damn it, the ship is sinking. What should I do? I can't swim. In this case, even if you can swim, it's useless. This is the sea. I've eaten devil fruit, I'll lose my mobility when I touch the sea. Jinbei, it's up to you. The hurried Straw Hats finally couldn't wait for the result of Luffy's battle. They racked their brains and thought of a way to get out of the car safely. As for Thousand Sunny, I can only feel sorry for Meili for a while and go back to the Seven Waters to rebuild. What's the use of relying on me? My water style is impossible, lift up so many people together. Zoro, he is not a demon fruit power. Jinbei's face is numb, no matter how strong his water skills are, he is still the owner of devil fruit. Relying on water style to bring everyone safely away, it was unrealistic to think yesterday. It's not true, but I don't know water. Do you want me to use my sword to cut open the sea? Or go to Meili and ask for a reliable boat? Zoro's voice rang in everyone's ears. 0. Chapter 206. World Government in the Shadows. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. Learn more. That's right, small boat. If there is a boat as a carrier, and Jinbei's waterway is there, we can definitely leave safely, and then we can rest assured and wait for the captain to finish. Everyone hit it off and they were about to scurry to find the small boat on board. Etc. A figure suddenly came forward. Deputy Captain, do you have a solution? After seeing the shape of the figure, Zoro seemed to think of something, and his eyes suddenly lit up. I almost forgot about Bai Yu, and remembered that he was in a coma. Since Bai Yu has taken action, then things will be all right. Should be no problem. Bai Yu touched the non-existent beard and hesitated. Very good. Jinbei in the numb claws finally felt relieved, and finally did not have to be driven by ducks on the shelves. With the help of water, Jinbei was forced to send his friends to the nearest island. Although the amount of work was so large, Jinbei was still very empty. It was too late to chat with his friends. Seeing that Luffy and Garp's aura had reached their peak, Bai Yu quickly turned around and caught up. Dash dash. Moonwalk. With Marine 6 styles, the two strokes are superimposed to slide out an invisible track in the air by Yu's. Finally, before the two hit their fists, they arrived in the middle. Freedom and extreme intention. Bai Yu didn't dare to care, and immediately started the same mode as Luffy. The hair that had just turned into black silk turned into a silver color when needed, and the pupils were also dyed with dazzling silver. The aura above the gods rose up on him, not weaker than Luffy, who was at the peak of his power. Shura. Endless power emerged from the body, a skill that was unique to him, and after taming the power of destruction, it bloomed with a new brilliance. Turning both hands into palms, he struck out brazenly, one hand met Garp and the other met Luffy. Boom. Everyone made a loud noise in their minds. But in fact, this attack was like a collision between the heavens and the earth, but on Thousand Sunny, there was no sound strangely. Even the air waves didn't raise much, only a breeze blew, wiping the hair on everyone's forehead, bringing the unique salty smell of the sea breeze. Caw. Just when everyone was stunned. Miles away. The originally calm sea suddenly made a roaring sound. It's like someone detonated a high-yield nuclear bomb under the sea. The terrifying energy reaction set off a terrifying wave hundreds of meters high directly on the calm plain. The waves crashed on the shore, smashed into the sea, and shattered into waves. It's scary. Everyone in the straw hats was not doing well, but the marine soldiers on the dog-headed ship hugged their heads and cried in fear. This monstrous wave was less than 10 meters away from them when it fell. The huge waves have turned their deck into a beach, and they are 1 mile away from the sea. Ah, Bai Yu, why are you interfering in my duel? Luffy, who was interrupted by the battle, was really upset. If I don't fight again, the Sunshine Miles will be destroyed by the fight between you two. Bai Yu was angry. If it weren't for the slow speed of shipbuilding in the capital of Seven Waters, and it would not be very good for Mei Li to change the carrier. Bai Yu didn't bother to take care of this shit, none of these guys could handle it. Thousand Sunny. Yes, Mei Li, is she all right? Luffy, who was originally unhappy, fell down in an instant, unable to speak at all. I'm here, little Loli murmured, looking unhappy. Hey, it's fine. But, Bai Yu, your body is getting stronger again. Luffy scratched his head embarrassedly, and in a blink of an eye, he saw Bai Yu's unscathed, his face full of admiration. As expected from my deputy captain. It's awesome. He couldn't help but give a thumbs up on his hand, and in the smirk filled with sunshine, he couldn't see a little bit, because Bai Yu interrupted his unpleasantness. Obviously, this bit of unpleasantness has been thrown out of the sky by the rough-hearted Luffy. Grandpa, you said yes. As he spoke, he did not forget to pull up Garp, completely forgetting that the two of them were still fighting to death just now. Yes. Garp agreed absent-mindedly. Although it is equally nonsensical, Garp, who has been on the battlefield and has rich experience, is obviously still much deeper than Luffy's city. How could it be so easy to take both his and Luffy's attacks at the same time? Moreover, the aftermath of the battle was wiped out on the deck and forcibly transferred to the sea several kilometers away, so that the ships under him would not be affected. The strength of this guy is simply amazing. Even if you regain your youth and return to your peak, you may not. Looking at Bai Yu's seemingly unscathed body, his face remained unchanged. Under Garp's indifferent dog-head hat, in those vicissitudes of life, there is a deep fear of him hidden. He cast his calm gaze away, and turned his face towards Luffy deliberately, humph. Although there is no need to sympathize with the villain, you are my grandson anyway. If you don't want to go back with me, leave Wanokuni early. It's not a safe place, Marine is afraid of you, but... Garp lowered his eyes, and the vicissitudes of the eyes were intertwined, as if heaven and man were at war. But world government is not that simple. However, Garp finally said the last words in his heart. I'm the man who wants to become One Piece. Luffy didn't understand Garp's entanglement, and he still shouted his own mantra. Bastard grandson, did you listen to me seriously? Garp's old face twitched, his head raised in a tic-tac-toe. Don't worry, Grandpa, I will definitely succeed. Who told you that it was unsuccessful? I told you to leave Wanokuni. Garp's veins throbbed violently. If it weren't for the momentum hedging just now, he could clearly perceive that Sun Tzu's strength would not be much inferior to himself now. Garp had already smashed it with an iron fist of love. Now, it's hard to fight, and it's hard to talk. For the first time in his life, Garp felt powerless to write. The two were like this, the chicken and the duck were talking for a long time, and Garp, who had no success, finally chose to give up because he was tired. My stupid grandson doesn't make sense. Boy over there, Bai Yu, you should know what I mean, this time it's not as simple as you think. The world government can endure the old Four Emperors' forces, but that doesn't mean they can accept a pirate emperor who dares to attack the celestial dragons, and has the basic plan to resist them. Without further ado, point to point. The mature Garp stopped talking after just a few words. Looking at Bai Yu with a stern face, he believed that Bai Yu, who could develop the Straw Hats to this level, would definitely not be a guy with only muscles and no brains. You said the captain was Luffy. Others don't know, he doesn't know. My grandson, fighting may be able to help. Planning. That brain is pure mush. Chapter 207. If Garp doesn't talk about martial arts. I know. Bai Yu nodded with a clear look on his face. Bai Yu has always been very clear about the plans of the world government and marine. It is nothing more than wanting to use them as knives to clear up the old Four Emperors' forces at sea. But, want to play chess, sit on the mountain and watch the tiger fight, how can it be so easy? It is not easy to catch a knife, and it will hurt your hand. Bai Yu's face remained unchanged, and he sneered inside, full of disdain. If it was before, he had not been fully sure, and could only rely on Wanokuni's old system, and then take a risk and take a risk. But now, really, is his newly acquired power of destruction used to look good? HMPH, you know. Garp Tsunere snorted coldly. Garp, who didn't know Bai Yu's inner thoughts, thought he had listened to his persuasion. If that's the case, then the old man will leave first. Stupid grandson, save your life for me, and if you don't understand, just ask that stinky boy beside you. After saying that, Garp with a Tsunere face, 12 directly exerted force with his feet and kicked hard towards the sky. The whole person shot out like a cannonball, moving in the direction of the far-off dog-headed ship, and fired it without looking back, causing a wave of sound. Don't worry, come on. I'm the man who will become One Piece. Luffy likened his hands to trumpets, shouting hard at Garp. Seeing the figure of Garp disappearing into the distance, Bai Yu gradually let out a sigh of relief. The power of the tiger is still alive, not to mention old age. As expected of being called Marine Hero, One Piece Roger's lifelong enemy, he is a terrible guy. Bai Yu lowered his face, hiding the fear in his eyes. Without a trace, he used his right hand to punch with Garp, his seemingly unscathed arm, but it was already riddled with holes by the powerful force field. Not to mention that I can't exert any strength, but it can be regarded as a burst of numbness. If he doesn't talk about martial arts and punches again, he will definitely be exposed. Fortunately, Chopper Healing Jutsu's control is high enough that he can barely maintain his superficial strength. Even so, considering Garp's identity, Bai Yu didn't use his newly acquired power of destruction, afraid he couldn't hold it back. But it is almost possible to break the body of Shura that he gathered so much power. Garp is really strong enough, these guys who call themselves the remnants of the old times are really not easy. Even Roger could only surrender himself and use his life in exchange for the opening of the era of great voyages. I am afraid that the world government is really the same as Garp said, it is not easy. By the way, what should we do now? Nami touched his head, looking a little confused. Are we really going to take Wanokuni as planned? Robin's expectant eyes were mixed with a vague fear. Known as the child of the devil, although she is always thinking about taking revenge against the world government, when she really faced this day, she couldn't help but think of the horrible scene of that day. For a time, mixed feelings, intricate. Hey, I think it's better to forget it. I recently got a disease that will kill me when I go to the island. I really can't go. Usopp Jong pulled this face, full of crying, and he lied unsurprisingly. We finally managed to deal with Bigmom, Kaido, and Marine who was lying in ambush, did they just run away in a daze? Sanji, who climbed out of the kitchen, took a hard puff on his cigarette, and let out a ring of smoke with a displeased face. That was sent by the world government, who have ruled the world for so many years, who knows how powerful they are, and Grandpa Luffy came to inform especially. Franky's face was hesitant. Bai Yu looked at Luffy, who was immersed in the delicacies as if nothing was happening, and once glanced at his mouth and said, "Do you think our captain will change our original plan because of these things? Compared to this guy should care more about the barbecue in front of him." Zoro shook his head helplessly. If you get on a rough boat, you can only endure his nonsense personality. So, let's ignore the world government and act according to the original plan. I'm more interested in this knife than the question of whether to go or not. Marine has put so much effort into it, at least half of it is on him. Bai Yu untied Jin Kunluo from his waist, held it in his hand and looked at it carefully. The look in his eyes was complicated, and his face was full of contemplation. Ho ho ho, I'm the man who wants to become the king of pirates. Let's set off again towards Wanokuni. Sunshine Miles. Rush. I don't know if I was stimulated by that sentence. Luffy, who was burying his head in eating, suddenly raised his head, and without even wiping off the oil stains on the corners of his mouth, he shouted with excitement. Woohoo! Rush to Wanokuni. For the countless Baileys, scare, to save the people of Wanokuni. Go. After the two captains unified the direction, the members of the Straw Hats who were swaying also had backbones. Even if Luffy is unreliable, Bai Yu won't mess around with him. Surely since the co-captain has decided to go, there will be absolutely no problem. Enel, put the power in here, we should hurry up and set sail. Franky poked at Enel, who was watching the play with his arms folded across his chest, pointed at the metal ball next to the roulette wheel, and hurriedly urged. After being on the ship for so long, everyone's relationship has been good, and of course there is no need to be as polite as before. Everyone, Look at the calm sea again. After arriving at Wanokuni, it is estimated that it will not be so easy. Franky looked proud. Hey, it's time to start. I'm tired of being instilled in electricity all the time. Thunder 893 surged, and Enel, like an electric mouse, said with a displeased face. Okay, activate emergency flight mode. Franky pressed a button with a smile on his face, and a sound of mechanical gears rang out on the boat. The mast on Thousand Sunny was quickly folded and retracted automatically, and 2 wings were extended on both sides of the sturdy hull. The wind blows. Boom. The electricity stored in Enel turned into endless kinetic energy and spewed out on the hull. Under the powerful propulsion, the Sunshine Miles galloped across the vast sea at the speed of a single ride. Bring up a long trail of breaking waves and splashes of water. Wow, cool send. It's time for a sea concerto. Brooke waved his right fist excitedly, picked up his violin, and played intoxicatedly against the whistling sea breeze on the sea emptied by the waves. The speed is fast, but if you use the running mode to hurry, isn't the sea breeze too strong? Covering his hair that was about to blow away, Nami frowned. Simple. Activate protection mode. The translucent light curtain slowly rose from the boat, blocking the wind and waves from the outside. Awesome. Can I enjoy the food again? After cheering, Luffy plunged into the food again, looking at Bai Yu and resting his forehead. Chapter 208. Bai Yu wants to join Wanokuni. Open black lens bracket Kaido of the Beasts raided Marine and rescued BIGMOM safely. Quote. Open black lens bracket the captain of the BIGMOM pirates, Charlotte Linlin, was killed by Bai Yu, the deputy leader of the Straw Hat Pirates, close corner bracket. Open black lens bracket Captain Beast's Pirates, Kaido, was defeated by Bai Yu, the deputy leader of the Straw Hat Pirates. Open black lens bracket Captain Beast's Pirates, Kaido, was arrested by Marine, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket Beast's Pirates, Fire Disaster, arrested by Marine. Open black lens bracket Beast's Pirates Plague Quinn, arrested by Marine, close black lens bracket. The Straw Hats and their group, when they landed in Wanokuni, learned the shocking news on the news. Ignoring the trembling of the people present, and looking up in awe, he walked forward on his own. It seems that before Marine, we recklessly left, in order to take down Kaido. Robin stroked his chin, thoughtfully. I guess it's because I think we can't deal with it, so I'm going to take down the seriously injured Kaido first, so as to save the last bamboo basket is empty, and it's not good to explain to the world government. Jinbei, who once served in the 7 warlords of the sea, can guess some Marine's thoughts. Anyway, we should hurry up and get the basic bylaws of Wanokuni in place before Marine and the world government can get their hands on it. Got it, Vice Captain. Under the leadership of Bai Yu, the Straw Hats did not dare to chat anymore. After handling Thousand Sunny, they rushed forward. Ta. Before taking 2 steps, he directly met Kazuki Hiyori, who had heard the news. Bai Yu, it's great that you're okay. As soon as they met, the newly appointed female general of Wanokuni fell into Bai Yu's arms crying. Cough, I'm fine. Don't worry. Bai Yu coughed dryly. Under the glaring eyes of the 3 girls, Bai Yu stiffened and pushed Kazuki Hiyori out. Thank you for avenging me. Moonlight Day and tearful eyes looked at Bai Yu, with such a pitiful appearance, Bai Yu's heart melted. Thank you, Your Excellency, for defeating Kaido, and waiting for us to get rid of the disease. Kinemon winked and knelt down on one knee. Thank you, Your Excellency, for defeating Kaido, and waiting for us to get rid of the disease. The others quickly followed behind him, kneeling on one knee and shouting loudly. Their faces were filled with gratitude, but their eyes were filled with awe. I thought that Straw Hat crew, together with his own group, could only fight against Kaido if they died. All of the people present, with the idea of death, even a lot of people, are ready to let Straw Hat crew consume a wave first, and then act on their own again. To put it bluntly, the confidence in the expedition against Kaido is very weak. But there is no choice but to gamble. Unexpectedly, this Straw Hat crew is so strong. While defeating the Beast's pirates, it can also push back Marine, who is in ambush behind the scenes. Especially their vice captain, with his own strength, against BIGMOM, Kaido and the 2 teamed up, and they were killed and injured not to mention. As a result, after only a few days of work, he recovered like nothing else. This kind of strength is simply terrifying. Even if Lord Kazuki Oden is resurrected, I am afraid that he is not an opponent at all. Duh. Thinking of these, the 9 heroes of the Red Pig couldn't help but swallow their saliva, and the look of awe on their faces became even stronger. Okay. Don't thank you. Bai Yu waved his hand, he has never been interested in such superficial articles. Kaido narrowly escaped, but he also fell into Marine's hands, so it's definitely not going to end well, and the Beast's pirates are all wiped out. Without the support of Kaido, Wanokuni's civil unrest will be resolved without any effort. Have you thought about the future direction of Wanokuni? Bai Yu turned his head and spoke to Kazuki Hiyori. Quote. Wanokuni future. Kazuki Hiyori opened his mouth intermittently while weeping gratefully. However, before she could finish her words, Kinemon took the lead to talk to her. Thank you, Mr. Bai Yu, for your concern. The civil unrest is still being pacified. We are also working hard to discuss the future of Wanokuni with the Lord. After all, It has been stolen by the Kurozumi family for so long, so many of the details have to be carefully and slowly. The country can't be in a hurry. Kinemon slickly adopted the trick of procrastination, refraining from talking about the focus, and simply fooling the answer. He spoke before Kazuki Hiyori because he was afraid that the newly appointed lord would explain everything to him. Bai Yu is strong, and it is also a fact that saving Wanokuni from danger. But this does not mean that Kinemon is willing to tell the truth of Wanokuni so easily, and even make the country a vassal and subordinate. Slowly, Bai Yu chuckled, his tone full of disdain. Oops, could it be that he really wants to meddle in Wanokuni's internal affairs? Kinemon's heart sank, and a strong sense of unpleasantness rose from the bottom of his heart, as if falling into an ice cave. Bai Yu's undisguised tone made him extremely uneasy. Could it be that after finally expelling a Kaido, Wanokuni will welcome another Bai Yu, who is even more terrifying? Thinking of Bai Yu's mythical record, Kinemon became desperate and couldn't bear the slightest idea of resistance. If you want, Lord Bai Yu, I am willing to go against the old master's last wish and offer Wanokuni's hands to you alone. I just ask you to give the master a way to survive. Quote. Kinemon knelt on the ground with all his body thrown to the ground, and his tone was mixed with sadness. At the same time as retreating as advance, it is also faintly provoking discord. What an old fox. Bai Yu cursed secretly. He wants to take Wanokuni in his pocket and use it as the basis for the management of the Straw Hats. But it is definitely not in this way, like a forced approach. Even if you don't consider Kazuki Hiyori's thoughts, Bai Yu still has to consider the hearts and minds of the people here. He didn't want to see the people in his own territory, every 3 or 5, unite to rebel against him, and incidentally recall the previous generation's rule. Jinamon, who was too lazy to pay any attention, knelt down in front of him, Guiku Qian Nuohao howling. Bai Yu sneered and said, dedicate Wanokuni to me. Let the sun go and find a way to live. I think you are asking the wrong person. What? Jinweiman raised his head, and his face was full of confusion. Bai Yu continued to speak slowly, you don't think that Wanokuni will be able to sit back and relax after getting rid of Kaido? Bai Yu, sir, what do you mean? Kinemon was a little frightened when he heard it, and he couldn't say anything at all. Kaido is resolved, Marine's warships haven't been withdrawn yet, right? You don't think the world government will pass up such a good opportunity to intervene in your internal affairs, right? Before, because of the complicated terrain and the strong military force guarded by Kaido, it was really hard to gnaw on hard bones, but now, Marine is close at hand. Or do you think the world government will be indifferent to the seastone minerals hidden underground? GU. Chapter 209. The Yin and Yang Strange CP Organs. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. This is this. Bai Yu's sharp questioning lifted Jinemon's fig leaf, leaving him speechless. World government. The power that has suppressed the world for hundreds of years and ruled everything, just listening to it, makes people breathless. Facing this terrifying behemoth, Xiao Juju, who was hiding in his heart, was crushed to pieces. Could it be Wanokuni? Can it really just end? Just out of the wolf's den, it entered the tiger's mouth again, and it was a wild giant tiger that could not be resisted at all. Kinemon's eyes lost their lust, like a salted fish with a broken ideal, and his body slumped to the ground in dejection. I also ask Lord Bai Yu to save Wanokuni, even if it's for the Lord's sake. Zhu Zicheng knelt down on one knee with a look of Chen Ken, and made a gesture of allegiance. Compared to the slick Kinemon, this beautiful woman actually understood the meaning of Bai Yu's words faster. Bai Yu. Kazuki Yamato also looked over with a pleading expression. The beauty was weeping, wet the front of her clothes, and the appearance of weeping was really unbearable to refuse. Of course Bai Yu is no exception, not to mention that this is his purpose in the first place. Don't worry, you only need to stabilize Wanokuni's internal affairs, so as not to allow the world government to take advantage of it. I will help you solve the problem of storming. Bai Yu patted Kazuki Yamato's shoulder with a firm tone. Gives a super invincible and reliable feeling. Don't worry, with me, the beautiful lady will not be hurt. It is my duty to protect the beautiful lady. Sanji didn't know where to bring out a plate of glowing dishes. Following Bai Yu's words, cracking his chest, he assured. Serious chef, with your strength, you are said to protect others. It is not bad to be able to protect yourself under the attack of the world government. Zoro has long been unhappy with this chef full of beauties, and of course he will not let go of the opportunity to ridicule. Stinky fart green algae head. Who said I can't do it? My kicking skills are also super strong. Also, if you have the ability, don't eat the glowing dishes I made. The pretty lady was humiliated. Sanji was so angry that he became angry. If he hadn't been able to beat him, he would have passed by with a flying leg. Cut. If you don't eat it, don't eat it. Who wants to eat what you lewd cook makes? Zoro pouted and looked disdainful. With the newly acquired second-generation ghost, Zoro has already swelled. Ah, I fought with you, bastard green algae head. Sanji was so angry at his attitude that he even forgot the difference in strength, so he had to run up to deliver the food. You two, give me a break. Nami akimbo angrily. Bang bang bang. As the two hot buns came out, the two live treasures finally quieted down. They all bowed their heads in tears and squatted in the corner. Can these unreliable guys really resist Marine and the world government? The Minister of Chrysanthemum looked suspicious of life, and always felt that his previous decision was too hasty. Hand over the future of Wanokuni to these people. Wanokuni really, can there be a future? Kaido's lair, the island of ghosts. Originally run by Kaido like an iron barrel, it was ruled by the three calamities and had a large number of members under its jurisdiction. Has been completely occupied by the Marine, taking their shape from the inside out. More than 100 ships, comparable to the giant ships with double buster call cards, were moored outside the island unscathed. Tens of thousands of Marines are stationed here, looking serious and disciplined, apparently preparing for a huge war. The part of the island that has been cleared has been built as a temporary podium. The CP agency wearing a mask, and the Marine officer wearing justice, passed through it. It seems to be a joint operation under the leadership of the world government. Report. Garp Vice Admiral has returned with his soldiers, and there is no trace of the Straw Hat crew on board. A soldier knocked on the door and came in, speaking quickly, BCAA. The Straw Hat crew is really a monster. Even the hero Garp can only return without success. Kizaru raised his eyelids, then closed his eyes again and began to fish. There is no passion for fighting before. Anyway, the dirty water on my body has been poured into Kurozumi by that stinky boy Bai Yu, and I can't wash it off at all. Kizaru simply gave up the idea of struggling and started a salted fish. I can't help you. Could it be that the captain of the Straw Hats is his own grandson, so he couldn't do anything, so he deliberately let them go? The CP chief who wears a black and white mask is not so polite when he speaks. The yin and yang strange tone is super appropriate to his neither yin nor yang appearance. Don't speculate. I know Mr. Garp, and he would never do such a thing. Aokiji's unique voice came from the phone to Garp's platform. Although in order to prevent pirates from taking advantage of the situation, he can only sit in naval headquarters to be safe. But a war of this scale might even decide the future of the meeting of the sea pattern. How could Aokiji not know it all? It is normal to conduct remote control and understanding through telephone bugs. Ah, what's he like? You're not Garp. How do you know he won't? Because of his grandson, he will bend the law for personal gain, and deliberately let them leave easily. CP always has a face full of disdain. Others are afraid of Aokiji, but he is not afraid. As the CPO chief, directly under the direct line of celestial dragons, he didn't even care about the officials of the world government. How could he possibly take Marine Marshal Aokiji in his eyes? Mr. Garp is Marine's hero, even against Luffy. I'm sure he'll never let the water go. Also, Mr. Garp's dispatch this time was also signed and approved by me. Are you questioning the credibility of our Marine? Aokiji's voice came from the phone, still not salty or indifferent. As for what he was thinking in his own heart, it is unknown. Chingshong. The chief CPO was so angry that he was speechless. If it weren't for the useful place to go to Marine, it's not good to tear his face completely now. He is afraid that he would have overtaken him long ago. How? The CP agency can't recruit so many strong people at all, and must rely on Marine's power, and can only endure for a while. Aokiji, you wait. Chief CP gritted his teeth, the blue veins on his head violently jumped, and he was full of angry words. If you are dissatisfied with me, you can report to the world government at any time to see if they want to remove me as Marshal Marine. Aokiji's nonchalant voice came from the phone. The original 3 Admiral, Akainu is cool, except for him, there is only one Kizaru left. He is covered in dirty water and has not been washed yet, but his character is extremely lazy. No matter how you look at it, it looks like you don't want to be a marshal. Chingshong had no fear at all, and the world government had no choice for the position of Marshal Marine. Chapter 210. Kizaru is about to shake. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. Asshole. The chief of CP who was choked for a moment, the one Buddha who was exasperated came out of his body, and the 2 Buddhas ascended to heaven. He belongs directly to the celestial dragons, and even world government officials can directly ignore him. He didn't expect that not long after he took office, he would be bruised in front of Marine, whom he regarded as a cooperative subordinate. His heart trembled in anger. His face was the color of pig liver. Humph. With a cold snort, he was so exasperated that he wanted to smash the table at the meeting to vent his anger. The result was not yet ushered in by Fujitora's gravitational suppression, but instead, there was a rude magnetic sound. Who is this, to be so ignorant of life and death, to be so arrogant in the Marine conference room? Oh, it turns out to be the chief of the CPU. I said, why don't you wear the white mask of the CP agency? Lazy and indifferent, he followed a vice admiral wearing a dog hat and broke into the conference room together. It's you. Originally in anger, the chief of the CP agency, who was ridiculed by Haosheng again, directly turned the gun and said it in a strange way. Who am I talking about? It turned out to be Hero Garp. Didn't you go to catch your Straw Hat crew? Why did you come back empty-handed? You have to talk about the technical content of the water. Aokiji is Marshal Marine, and he quits in a hurry, and he has no good fruit to eat. Aokiji can't be too exciting. You Garp a mere vice admiral, you can't provoke yourself. Water. Garp pulled a chair and sat down casually. Isn't it? Even if you want to release water for your grandson, you don't have to be so arrogant. It's okay to come back with all the tails, and not even a marine soldier was injured. After being blatantly ignored by Garp, the head of CP became even more arrogant. Hey, Garp sneered, too lazy to pay attention to such a villain. Could it be that I made a mistake? I said I went to intercept Straw Hat Crew, but they didn't catch it, so I didn't say anything. Even if I was injured, you didn't go around the sea, come back to pay. The words of the chief executive of CP are even more yin and yang. Even Fujitora, who was on the sidelines, couldn't see it. Although he really can't see it. Garp jumped up from his chair. His face was serious and he didn't say a word. He didn't bother to entangle with this kind of villain. The dark armed color is wrapped around the iron fist, and Ling Bi's fist style brings strong wind pressure. Ka. The sound of breaking the sound barrier rang out in the conference room. Between the lightning and flint, Garp's dark iron fist was less than 10 centimeters away from the face of the CP chief. For a physique master of his level, this distance is equivalent to none. Before the CP chief could react, Haki's fist style, wearing a mask on his face, was abruptly disintegrated into powder. Wow lala, blowing away in the wind and dissipating in the air. You, what are you trying to do? Do you want to imitate your son, your grandson, and rebel together? Betray Marine and rebel against the rule of the world government. The fist of the casserole is in front of you, and you can clearly see the fingerprints on it. The commander-in-chief of CP, who was arrogant just now, is now so frightened that he doesn't dare to provoke him again with harsh words, and only dares to threaten him sternly. For fear that Garp can't think about it, he sent him back to the west with a punch. As far as the speed he just showed, there are absolutely no more than 2 who are sure to be blocked at such a close distance. Anyway, he himself has no confidence at all. Laugh. I just want you to see, it's just my injury. Didn't you say I'm unscathed? Then open the corners of your eyes and show me. Garp sneered and slowly brushed the cuff on his arm. On the bronze-colored arm, several scars blasted by the fist wind lingered for a long time, as if a strange force was preventing them from healing. The veins and blood vessels are even more arrogantly exposed. At first glance, it is forcibly used, and the overloaded use of the strength that the body can carry will appear. Kizaru's pupils shrank, and the salted fish couldn't hold on. This is the scar on my fist with the straw hats, Vice Captain Bai Yu. After waking up from the faint, his strength was not affected, but even stronger. Even if I do my best, I may not be able to take him down. Besides, he has a bunch of crew members who cannot be underestimated, in order to take into account the safety of the soldiers around him. So after a short fight and confirmed my strength, I took the opportunity to retreat, and after fighting with me, he didn't seem to have any signs of injury, at least on the surface. Garp's low voice resounded in the conference room. This guy is getting stronger again. Fujitora doubted whether his determination at that time was correct. For flowers 00. Bai Yu's growth rate is too fast, far beyond his expected range. Even the hero Garp is such a monster. Maybe he said. Kizaru Banu pulled his eyes, his expression darkened, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Could it be that Fujitora had to give up and conservatively chose to capture Kaido first, because he was afraid of this guy? Tall and handsome, the green cow in a green shirt has a thoughtful look on his face. For a time, in the conference room, a quiet needle could be heard falling. Of course, it's not clear what Admiral's mind is thinking. Even this CP chief, who has always been yin and yang, was stunned. Humph. Since the other party is so powerful, how can you get away easily and say that it has nothing to do with Straw Hat Crew in private? Who would believe it? The CP chief, who had recovered from the shock, snorted coldly and continued to mess around. Enough. The most urgent task now is the order of the world government. If you delay the business, even if you are the direct resident of Celestial Dragons, you can't escape being involved. Aokiji's grim voice came from the phone, forcing an end to the matter. Humph. Then just wait. It's not so easy to finish. After making a fuss about the shameless CP chief, after putting down a scene, he turned around and left. Cough. The CP organization is really getting worse and worse, similar to their master. After Garp smashed his mouth, he put on his dog hat. Close your eyes and sit on the chair, close your eyes and rest. Anyway, he is wounded now, so he should enjoy it. No, he is recovering. The new guy, of course Frizz is normal. Fujitora looked accustomed to it. Don't worry about them, since the world government let them out and attaches so much importance to them, they will definitely be equipped with that thing. If we really have to fight, even our marines may not. We concentrate on dealing with the Straw Hat Crew and try to hold them back as much as possible, but the speed at which Bai Yu becomes stronger is really scary. What a monster. Aokiji's voice from the phone was full of fear for Bai Yu. Unexpectedly, the little guy who was running with him in his arms had grown to this point so quickly. 0. Chapter 211. The Light of Thunder. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. Learn more. Countless beautiful flowers in the flower capital bloom in the wind, wanton stretching their beautiful bodies. The fragrance is fragrant, and people can't help swaying, enjoying the spring scenery. But none of the people present had the time to enjoy the beautiful scenery. All of them looked solemn, looking at the open door with a heavy heart, as if they were waiting for some important visitor. Straw Hat, has the group arrived yet? Kinneyman's anxious face was almost sweating. Reporting to the Lord, the doorman has not received the whereabouts of the Straw Hat Pirates, only they have sent us, let us wait for a while, and the news is said to be arriving soon. Afterwards, he said respectfully. Immediately, it's coming soon, how long has it been? Marine's ships are already eyeing on the island of ghosts, and he hasn't even seen any of the 893. The guard's words comforted him, but on the contrary, he became even more anxious. After losing the interception of the outer waterfall, it was entered into the inland sea by Marine. Without the natural defense, Wanokuni can be said to be a tiger without teeth. Weak can be. Basically, there is no capital that can compete with Marine, let alone the world government standing behind them. With all the hungry wolves at the door, it's no wonder that Kinemon didn't panic. Aren't they afraid of Marine, so they ran away first? Kinemon, who was Doran himself, had a bad feeling in his heart. Probably not. Lord Bai Yu has already agreed, and if they are afraid of Marine, they don't have to log in again. Zhu Zicheng, who is so beautiful and beautiful that even women can't help but be jealous, stood up. Humph. Maybe it's for Seastone. Isn't there a man named Nami in the Straw Hats who opened his mouth to ask for 10 million Seastone coins? I said he shouldn't give it to her so easily. We have to wait until Marine is expelled, they must have got the things now, so they took the opportunity to run away. Otherwise, why is there such a critical moment now, and no one is there? Kinemon didn't care, his face was still ugly. Totally forgot that these Seastone coins were Kazuki Hiyori, who offered to thank Nami in order to thank the Straw Hats for expelling the Kurozumi Orochi. Stealing the concept, using the topic to play, what you do is called a consummate mastery. This. Hiku no Cheng's words were choked. Enough, Bai Yu-sama is definitely not such a person. Kazuki Hiyori's low whimper sounded from the first seat. My lord, you know what you know, but you don't know your heart. How long have you known him? What should you do if you were deceived by him? The other party is the fifth pirate emperor rising from the sea. Kinemon's face is distressed, as if a loyal minister is admonishing the faint coon. Take Kazuki Hiyori seriously. It's true that he is loyal to the Kazuki family, but it doesn't mean he is willing to be a woman's retainer, especially if the other party still has sex. Quiet. If she just wanted to return to the honor of the Kazuki clan, of course he was willing to give enough respect, but she actually wanted to be Wanokuni's first female general. This is simply because if it weren't for the unclear attitude of several other colleagues, Kinemon would be too lazy to maintain even the surface respect for Kazuki Hiyori. Even so, she was completely fooled as a little girl. Kinemon, are you questioning my decision as a general? Kazuki Hiyori's cold voice sounded from the seat. She is not a petite, brainless, weak woman. She who can become a courtesan may not be as powerful as any of the people present, but her wisdom is not inferior. By no means is that kind of puppet coon lord posed as a mascot. At least, basic opinion and look. Law, there are still. Kinemon was the one who was questioned in court. Just as he was about to make a few quibbles, he looked up and met Kazuki Hiyori's eyes. Cold, majestic Lord Kazuki Oden. Kinemon's pupils shrank, as if through a woman's body, he saw a familiar figure, the whole person was frightened by sweat, and the words were directly in the throat. Can't go up, can't go down, lose face. Bastard. After he came back to his senses, he thought that his dignified red sheath was actually frightened by a courtier. Annoyed and angry, he directly stimulated his own momentum, and insisted on making this lord make a fool of himself, let's see how she is majestic. Boom. The murderous aura of the corpse mountain and the sea of blood permeates the air, and the temperature around it is going to be a lot colder. Don't look at this guy's food in front of Bai Yu, but he can become the leader of the 9 red scabbards, and he is also named Kaido in the later stage. He is by no means a small person. The souls who die under his hands are difficult to count. Senrin's murderous aura, wrapped in a bloody suffocating aura, is about to spread to Kazuki Hiyori, let her play a good role and know who her father is. The next moment, a dazzling thunder light rushed towards the door of the open door. Boom. The roaring thunder light, wrapped in a powerful electromagnetic field force, all the way with electric light and lightning, rampage in the air, destroying the murderous aura created by Kinemon. The dry charged ions make it even more the hair of everyone present couldn't help but frizz. Not good. Kinemon's pupils shrank. The powerful samurai instinct made his heart ring a great alarm. Looking at the expanding electric light in the field of vision, his body instinctively shrank. Fire fox stream, flame crack. The clear drawn sword flashed in the hall, and the burning flames attached to the slash. The blazing high temperature distorted the air heating, standing of people, have. A sweltering hot sensation. Ka. The long knife jumped into a new shape, and with an indomitable momentum, it fiercely met the thunder that flashed in the air. The flames collided with the lightning, blasting layers of fireworks. Shung Shung stopped this thunderbolt on the ground, and his strength was superb. No. Just when Kinemon was about to breathe a sigh of relief, in the extinguished thunder. And suddenly sent out a dark coin. A mere hidden weapon. Kinemon, who thought he could see through the truth, raised his long sword and slashed with confidence. Pin. Sound of gold and stone. The result was completely different from what he expected. The pitch-black coin that was slashed by the blade, not only was not cut in two, but continued to charge towards it. Sea stone. When he realized something wasn't right. The powerful propulsive force has already made the coin run through his blade. A finger-sized gap appeared on the treasured sword he cherished. Who is it? Dare to be presumptuous in such a place? Do you want to declare war on us, Wanokuni? Jinweiman looked solemnly at the open door, full of vigilance. Chapter 212. Marine arrives. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. Tap tap. With the sound of footsteps, the visitors outside the door finally showed their true forms. Is it you? Kinemon's pupils shrank, and the person who came was obviously far beyond his expectations. Hey, didn't you ask us to come? You keep urging us back and forth. The nerve-wracking Luffy puffed out his cheeks, not knowing what he was eating, and muttered. It's true, but why did your excellency take action against us? Jinweiman still insisted. Anyway, that Bai Yu has not spoken yet, of course he won't admit it so quickly. To you, I was obviously aware of the murderous aura, and I was afraid that someone was scheming and wanted to assassinate Rihei, so I locked the source of the murderous intention and took the lead to help, so as not to be defeated by the villain. Nami looked at Kinemon with a half smile. The smirk at the corner of the little thief cat's mouth didn't mean anything to hide it. You can. After Kinemon was choked on the spot, he still wanted to struggle to say something. The laughing voice of the little thief cat rang again on the field. If I hadn't been disturbed by Bai Yu just now, I wouldn't have missed it. As soon as I hit my soul, I would directly shoot my head. This is romantic, you are right. 12 is also a pitch black coin, and on the fingertips around Nami's electromagnetic cable, like a butterfly through a flower, it constantly jumps up and down, left and right. The meaning of the thread is self-evident. You. Kinemon was furious. He wanted to say something, but after swept across the gap on the knife, he couldn't help sweating. The hardness is comparable to the matching sword of a good and fast knife, and it will be broken in a single encounter. If it hits his head, or even between his eyebrows. Hi, Kinemon couldn't help taking a deep breath. I originally thought that the Straw Hat Group was just Bai Yu's ruthless character, but I didn't expect that even a girl who seemed to be weak inside had such monster-like power. Thinking back to the time when the three girls joined forces, even Kaido was able to blow up. Kinemon couldn't help but quickly put away the unrealistic thoughts in his mind. There was nothing to say, only a deep sense of fear. However, random testing, and even speak up. Seeing the atmosphere, getting more and more embarrassed, Hiyori, who was sitting at the top, finally spoke. Kinemon, let's step back. Thank you to everyone in the Straw Hats, who are always willing to give us a helping hand in times of crisis. Hiyori walked up and down the seat, and Luo walked towards Straw Hat Crew generously. His face was full of gratitude, without the air of a general. He speaks like a spring breeze, and when he wants to, he will disappear the little embarrassment that has just arisen into the invisible. Hee, this is all thanks to Bai Yu, he decided to shoot. Luffy scratched his head and smiled sadly, and didn't mind being overwhelmed by Bai Yu. Bai Yu. Hiyori was in tears, and was so moved that she couldn't help crying. For his own sake, he was willing to fight against such a behemoth as Marine and the world government. Not to mention the secret promise of Fang Xin, Rihi is now simply, a red heart will change its surname to Bai. It was as if he thought that Bai Yu's actions were all made for her. No wonder it is true that a woman who falls in love has zero IQ. Actually, Bai Yu, who understood Rihei's misunderstanding, looked a little embarrassed. He was about to explain a few words, but was interrupted by a figure who suddenly entered. Report to the general. Marine's warship is about to arrive in the capital of Flowers, and the troops stationed along the coast are simply unable to resist. The general should send reinforcements. The messenger samurai who broke in was trembling all over, and fear was written from beginning to end. What? Kazuki Hiyori's face changed drastically. Although expected, Wanokuni and Marine are bound to have a fight. But the war that came so soon caught Kazuki Hiyori a little off guard. No matter how extraordinary she is and her scheming is not bad, she is suddenly in a high position after all, and facing this kind of pressure that can be described as destroying the country, of course she cannot avoid being overwhelmed. The Red Pig 9 heroes on the field didn't do much better, their faces were full of unease, and what's more, some retainers even smashed directly to the ground. He kept muttering, it's over, Wanokuni is completely over. Straw Hat Crew, who even forgot the thought of resistance, was already mentally prepared, and his expression was relatively calm. Except for Upso. The guy started talking nonsense again and made up a disease for himself. It's finally here. Bai Yu raised his brows lightly. Instead of fear, his face was full of eagerness to try. Since he took control of the power of destruction, he has been masturbating a lot, and he wants to find a heavyweight guy to test the effect for him in the field. There are crew members on the ship, and they can't let go. However, in the face of the world government, then there is nothing to worry about. A stern look flashed in Bai Yu's eyes. It's not too late, let's go to the coastline to support. Gather the strength of the warriors from all over Wanokuni, and we can also draw more than 5,000 battle strength. Drag it further, and the Marines will break through the defense line and drive straight into the hinterland. If you want to fight again, it won't be so easy. Compared with continuing to be with Japan and me, explaining the love between children and me. The first task, of course, is to deal with Marines' invasion first. Bai Yu has not forgotten. What is the purpose of his special visit to Wanokuni? Yes, yes. And you, Mr. Bai Yu. I'm going to gather all the retainers and warriors now. Please wait a moment, my lord. As if he had caught a life-saving straw, the terrified Jujichung's eyes suddenly burst into endless light. After bowing to Kazuki Hiyori 893, without waiting for her to reply, he took his long legs and ran out in a hurry. Even the clothes were not straightened out, and the spring light leaked from the kimono made Sanji look straight. Chrysanthemum of chrysanthemum, little. A stream of heat gushed out from Sanji's nose, and Sanji, who had a nosebleed, tilted his head and fainted. Sure enough, it's a lecherous chef. Zoro, who was wearing a green algae head, used the help of a word with disgust on his face, and slashed with a gentle slash, using his fallen body. Do not misunderstand. Zoro wasn't worried about this guy's hands. I just don't want to lose the face of the Straw Hats in front of so many people. Bai Yu couldn't help but cast his gaze to the rear of the chaos. Looking at Sanji, who had a nosebleed to the point of fainting, Bai Yu's face became strange. I always feel that Sanji has awakened to strange attributes since he met Kiku no Chang. And Zoro too, shouldn't they both? Bai Yu hurriedly shook his head, threw the unrealistic thoughts out of his mind, and forcibly focused his attention on the business. Chrysanthemum Kikuchi went to summon the Wanokuni samurai. Let's go too. Okay, go. Defeat Marine. I'm the man who wants to become One Piece. Chapter 213. Desperate CP Chief. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. The coastline of the flower capital. It is located in a dangerous line of defense, which is constantly eroded by the waves. Of course, it is not as good as the sound of birds and flowers everywhere in the inner island, which makes people feel relaxed and happy. Just on the border defense line, the chilling atmosphere is enough to make people uncomfortable. What's more, there are huge waves, constantly coming from under the rocky cliffs, setting off a foul-smelling sea breeze, which is definitely not the romance of the sea breeze in the mouth of the Bard. Today's line of defense is more unstable than ever. At the end of the sea level where the water and sky were the same color, countless sails suddenly rose, and the huge ships lined up and formed a formation, dyeing the blue and clear sea with the color of gunpowder. The warships that cover the sky and the sun, sailing on the sea, take away the brilliance of the sun, but also render the calm sea magnificent. Monument. Huge cannonballs fell from the sky and exploded in the gravel beach, forming gorgeous fireworks, completely breaking the precarious tranquility. Enemy attack. Marine. It's Marine. Marine is going to force a landing. Help. Spread the camp. Use cover to disperse cover, and wait for them to come ashore to attack. Attack. With people like us, we might not be able to escape even if we run for our lives. Run quickly. If you don't run, it will be too late when they land. The hometown is behind you. Run. Where can you run? Those who evacuated without authorization, die. It was just a round of dozens of shells, and not a single soldier was dispatched. The defenders on the coastline were already in disarray. If the commander hadn't forcibly pressed them, they would have been defeated and fled long ago. The name of a person, the shadow of a tree. Marine, who has been in the sea for so many years, is absolutely first class in terms of prestige. What's more, the other party directly crossed the natural danger, the great waterfall, and directly hit the door of their own house. The offensive of the general's soldiers on this day was completely enough to defeat their psychological defense line. Aboard the Marine, have you detected the movement of Straw Hat crew? The handsome green cow turned his head and asked the white mask beside him. Although the battle is not very useful, it is quite useful to collect intelligence CP agencies. Green Bull Ishan was on the Straw Hat crew, which he had never fought before, and directly ignored the trash fish on the coastline who were doing fierce resistance. This table tells Green Bull Admiral, there is currently no whereabouts of Straw Hat crew, only know that after they last appeared in Flower Capital Port 3 days ago, their whereabouts are unknown. After all, it was a joint operation between Marine and the CP agency. Although there was a gap between the two, the white mask as a subordinate returned honestly. However, the answer is somewhat unsatisfactory. Whereabouts unknown, Kizaru said noncommittally with a taste of his mouth, his sloppy face smoking a cigarette. Yes, Kizaru Admiral, since seeing the Straw Hat crew in the Flower Capital, there has been no trace of them, and even the car, the Sunshine Mile, has disappeared. White Mask daringly answered, waste. Marine didn't say anything, but the commander of CP, who was neither yin nor yang, jumped out first with a look of anger. A bunch of rubbish. You can't even find a target as big as Straw Hat crew. What's the use of the CP agency distributing so many activity funds to you every year? To actually hurt himself in front of Marine, so humiliating. As the chief of CP who is the boss of these guys, it can be said that his lungs are about to explode. One blow, finger pistol blasted out, knocking half of the mask off his face, as a warning. Only then did he continue to speak viciously, get out now. There is no trace of the Straw Hat crew, so you don't have to come back, all of you can apologize. All. A bunch of rice buckets. Trash. After blasting these unsightly guys away, he even scolded in exasperation. Just when the president of CP got angry, Fujitora, who had been pretending to be the background board, suddenly opened his mouth and interrupted his official prestige. I think it should be used for the time being. Chief CP couldn't help frowning. What? Looking at Fujitora suspiciously, does this old blind man also want to watch my fun? Fujitora didn't bother to pay attention to this guy, turned his head directly, raised the hanging cane, and pointed towards the distant coastline. No, if I see a good sense of color, the Straw Hat crew is here. Fujitora, who had been leisurely, finally became serious. Compared to the new CP chief who was like the clown jumping beam, he is still the little monster Bai Yu, which can arouse his inner vigilance even more. Huh, it really came. On Kizaru's wretched face, there was a faint flash of understanding. The calm heart began to waver. In this situation, what should I do? That's them. Among the three admirals, only the handsome green cow still looked curious. Reinforcement. Reinforcement. Everyone, hold on. The general is here with reinforcements. Quote. His is the Straw Hat Pirates. The fifth pirate emperor of New World. Quote. Che, your news is too outdated. Bigmom was killed by him, it should be the four emperors. That's right, it is said that Kaido, the beasts, was also defeated by them. I didn't expect the general to be able to pull in such reinforcements. Wanokuni is saved. Is there any help? Do you really think that the Straw Hat crew can turn everything around? Chief CP was furious. As the ship got closer and closer, he could hear not only the scenes on the coastline, but also the sounds under the coverage of the sights and sounds. Looking at the group of unsightly warriors, who actually regarded Straw Hat crew as a savior, with a fearless appearance, he felt angry. Chief CP snorted coldly, Savior. I want to see how many nails they can hit with just a few people from Straw Hat crew. Come on, let me open all the ammunition depots, and order all ships to start saturation strikes until the opposite coastline is completely destroyed. He was furious, and straight Qian Nuohao took over the domineering and started to give orders. He completely forgot that he was in a marine warship, not a world government ship. Sure enough, none of the marine commanders on the ship paid any attention to him, while the members of the CP agency listened to his orders, but unfortunately the number was too small to be of great use. The CP chief, who was treated as a fart, became even more annoyed. Bastard. Don't hurry up. Momotada, are you a pirate accomplice? This. The starter, who was inexplicably held a big black pot, looked at Fujitora with an embarrassed expression. Hope to get some help from him. Aokiji is gone, Kizaru is paddling, the green cow is new, and Marine's real arbiter is Admiral Fujitora. Damn it, my order is invalid. Fujitora, do you want to drag on and give the rebellious group a chance to breathe? Don't forget that Bai Yu, who had fainted, was ordered to retreat. Chapter 214. Nami's salted fish turns over. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. Now you are hesitating here again, delaying time and refusing to order the action. Could it be that you, like Kizaru, are also an undercover agent of Straw Hat crew? The threat from the side of the genital side of CP's total length rose. Kizaru, what are you talking about yours, what are you doing to me? Isn't it fun? If I lie down and be a salted fish, I will get hurt. I can't wash the dirty hands on my body. Fujitora turned her head sideways and glanced at the clown-like guy. Although his eyes were tightly closed, his icy gaze seemed to rise from the bottom of his heart, looking at a room in his heart. After that, he didn't bother to pay attention to the monkey who jumped up and down, exposing all his red buttocks. He raised his head slightly, facing the coastline, and said in a low voice, "Pass my order, the whole army will attack. Open the ammunition depot, don't hesitate to store armaments, and choose a saturated coverage attack." Although the CP organization is not as good as the previous generation, the order of the jumping clown is indeed correct. As the saying goes, the truth is within the range of the cannon. Even with devil fruit, hockey, this unscientific thing, for most pirates, artillery fire is still an unstoppable attack. Even if the strength is strong, it can also consume a lot of the opponent's strength. In the case of having the advantage of distance 893, the saturated artillery attack is definitely the optimal solution for the battle. It's a pity that the innocent soldiers died under the fire. However, if either the other side died tragically and innocently, or the other side contacted and fought against it, the losses were heavy. Even if Fujitora is a virgin, no matter how soft-hearted, it is impossible to choose the latter. Fujitora couldn't help sighing, his eyes flashed fiercely. Reload. Release. Boom boom boom. The continuous gunfire rang out from the warship, and the dart gun barrels burst into deathly flames. The blue sky was instantly filled with the cannonballs of Wujuju. Marine attacked. So many shells. It's over, it's dead, run, it's impossible to resist. The artillery fire that covered the sky directly destroyed all the confidence of the defenders. The deserters even forgot to take the weapons in their hands, and even rolled and ran behind them. I cried for my father and my mother all the way, I only hated my father and mother for giving birth to two less legs. This wasn't the dozens of tentative attacks that came out earlier. At a glance, there are thousands of them, and if they really want to be shot down, let alone people of flesh and blood, even the coast has to be bombed to slag. Damn, Zoro scolded secretly. With his kendo BCAA power, it was of course impossible for the mere shells to hurt him, but relatively speaking, he wanted to intercept all of them was an idiot. Despicable. To actually use this kind of attack. Franky shouted loudly that no matter how strong his technology was, in absolute numbers, he was still fragile and couldn't even bubble. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and do it. Nami took out the style of the big sister's head. Enel, activate all your electricity and help me strengthen the electromagnetic field force. Wei, try to help me inflate the wind. Jinbei, use water style to stop me first and buy me some time. Bai Yu, if I really can't stop it, I can only ask you to evacuate everyone. One order after another came from her mouth. The little thief cat who took the position of Captain Luffy gave orders with a heroic expression. Okay, then look at me first. Jinbei nodded confidently. With a flash, he ran to the shore, and the seal pulled the power of the sea. Water style big waterfall technique. Water style shark ball technique. Water style big shark bullet technique. Pulled by Jinbei, the sea water turned into a 100-meter high waterfall and surged out. At the top, one after another, huge and ferocious sharks were formed. It jumped out of the sea, opened its mouth and devoured the shells in the sky, and then fell into the sea to launch a series of bombardments. Humph. A murloc who can control seawater. It's a bit of a level in terms of scale. However, relying on one's own ability, against artillery attacks. I don't know whether to live or die. Chief CP smiled disdainfully. I have to say that although this CP chief has a bad mouth, he still has two brushes. Seeing through Jinbei's body at a glance, the attack in the form of hydration looks incomparably vast, but the mana consumption is also exaggerated, which is as exaggerated as his power. Time passed, and the cannonballs in the sky were still continuous, but the speed of the sharks jumping on the sea obviously began to slow down. Beat the stone with an egg and wait to become a dead fish. Chief CP's eyes were cold, as if looking at a corpse. It's now. Rush. What? Just when he thought the victory was in his hands, a heroic female voice suddenly sounded, which made his heart tighten. Super railgun. 108,000 hits. Nami's roar rang out on the sea, and Xiaonaoyuren's little thief cat finally revealed her manly side. Bright electric lights lit up in front of Nami, and endless brilliance bloomed. Even the sun in the sky has been robbed of its brilliance by her. With Enel's selfless contribution, the electromagnetic field in front of Nami has expanded 100 times. The electromagnetic wave visible to the naked eye surrounded him, and even Bai Yu felt a little numb within 100 meters. Stacked on the ground, the black coins like a hill were suspended under the traction of the magnetic field, and they entered the electromagnetic acceleration track. Bang bang bang. At a speed that is imperceptible to the naked eye, the coins that have undergone electromagnetic acceleration began their journey. Countless dazzling thunder lights lit up in the sky, easily smashed the cannonballs in the air, exploded a ball of fireworks, and continued to charge forward without looking back. It seems to be the super electromagnetic gun of the multiple shadow clone forbidden technique. Although the single power is not as powerful as the one that pops out of Nami's hands. But in the blink of an eye, hundreds of thousands can be ejected, which is definitely a crushing horror. Wow wo. Such a strong power. Even though he was involved in this attack, Enel couldn't help but look shocked. Wow. Let this group of Qinghai people taste the power and let them know what the majesty of God is. Enel waved the golden stick excitedly. To be able to join forces to strike this kind of attack, even if he is incomparable in the second, he is full of pride and honor. Nami is so strong. We agreed to salt fish together, why did you turn over quietly? It must be Bai Yu, who secretly tutored her at night. Boom boom boom. In the eyes of everyone excited. There was an endless stream of loud noises in the sky, and fireworks bloomed in the blue sky. With the gushing thunder light, it overlapped to form a giant net of thunder, and the ammunition that covered the sky and the sun was gradually emptied. At the same time as the sky was clean, the giant net of thunder that surged electromagnetically did not mean to disperse. On the contrary, it slowly fell in Tianyu and descended towards the bottom. Come down. The marine soldiers shrank their pupils and lost the ability to speak. The deep purple thunder net is like catching fish and casting a net. Manipulated by an invisible hand, it scatters toward the warship where a marine has been trained. Chapter 215. Kizaru lays the gun, Kuzan takes the blame. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. Not good. Fujitora's heart tightened, and he couldn't sit still any longer. Watch from the sidelines again, and when the thunder net comes down, Marine will suffer heavy losses. Kizaru, you block with me, make sure to block that thing. Green Bull, you're not good at group attack, so just sit on the warship and prevent the Straw Hat crew from making any other strange moves. In an emergency, he was too lazy to pay attention to the CP chief who jumped up and down, and Fujitora, whose eyes were closed, deflected gravity and jumped towards the sky. Fire Festival. The terrifying devil fruit power emerges from inside Fujitora's beard and hair as he rides on the gravel made of floating stones. Under the endless gravitational pull, the boundless and the sense of seeing, and seeing. Get down. Fujitora yelled angrily. Above the distant sky, a few bright lights suddenly flashed, and then there were countless stars, growing from nothing in the sky, constantly growing. That is, a meteorite. Fujitora Admiral, pulled the meteorite down from the sky. Meteorite strikes thunder. Is this really a battle that humans can do? The incomparably huge meteor fell from the sky, dragged out a long tail of flame, and slammed into the giant thunder net, blasting bright fireworks one after another. In the end, it is the power of heaven and earth, the wrath of nature, even if it is electromagnetic ferocity, and thunder is tyrannical. If you want to completely wipe out these meteorites that fall from the sky, so as not to be smashed to the coastline, the energy consumed is definitely not a small amount. In the blink of an eye, the giant net of lightning surging, there are many branches and nodes, and they begin to dim. It is obviously that the power is excessively exhausted and the power is lost. Cough, the guys in the straw hats are really monsters, it's really scary. Kizaru winked, making his already wretched face look more like a strange shutai. Hey, it's so fierce as soon as I play, it seems that I can only make a move. Although he gave up the struggle and planned to fish, but after all, he was named and shot. If he continued to grind, his identity as an undercover agent would have to be completely stamped out. After sighing, Kizaru had no choice but to choose to go all out, not for merit but for nothing. At least let him lie down safely and get a pension. 8-foot Chongu Jade, sparkling fruit's strongest move outrageously, the fruit awakening is fully stimulated, and Kizaru has no intention of keeping his hands. The Danger Langdang's figure turned into a photon and jumped up, and countless dazzling light bombs burst out, and the golden light was bright, several times stronger than the previous ones against Kaido. This guy really hides very deeply. Bai Yu's expression darkened, he looked at Kizaru with interest, his eyes changed, as if he was planning something. Ah, an inexplicable cold air rose from his spine, causing Kizaru to sneeze. Mass, who is plotting against me? Kizaru reached out and wiped his nose, and swept around with a displeased expression. Don't worry, fix the lightning net above it first, or it won't be fun if it falls off. Kizaru shook his head, concentrated on manipulating the dazzling light projectile, and charged towards the lightning network node. The same as playing with light, thunder light is also light. Kizaru saw the key to the opponent's move at a glance. The grid is not the point, it can be regenerated by electromagnetism. The light on the node is the key. After smashing the nodes and making the thunder net lose its ability to complete, they don't need to attack. Under the huge thunder consumption, if he doesn't move for a long time, he will collapse on his own. After solving this big trouble, presumably my suspicions will be cleared up a lot. Thinking of the beauty, Kizaru's wretched face couldn't help showing a more wretched smile. Bang bang bang. In Kizaru's smug eyes, golden light and thunder light continued to explode. But the result was unexpected for him. How is it possible? Kizaru fell to the ground with his mouth open. The dazzling golden light collided with the raging thunder light, and in his prediction, the light bullet that should have completely destroyed the thunder light node. It turned out to be just golden light overflowing, and after a flash, it became dim. The Liguang node still looks like nothing. Attack doesn't work. How can this attack be so strong? I can only blister when I hit it with all my strength. Is my sparkling fruit fake? Or is it that someone secretly exchanged my fruit? I even used the fruit for awakening, how could this be the result? Kizaru looked suspicious of life, and the whole person looked like he was broken by playing. Ask for flowers. If Nami was still using the old coins, Kizaru's plan would have worked perfectly. But, what she used today was knocked out of Kazuki Hiyori's hands. Seastone coins. Seastone hits Devil Fruit's ability, although it is not as good as using it directly, it can directly imprison them and make them have no resistance. But if it is only the suppression of power, it can still be done. In addition, in order to make a breakthrough in one fell swoop, Kizaru adopted a range attack, which was full of power, and returned without success under the suppression of Seastone. Of course, it was normal. Electromagnetic force is reduced by 30%, under the suppression of Seastone, it can still produce this level of impact, it's a terrible guy. Nami, who was always watching the power of the Thunder Giant net, couldn't help frowning. Point 0. Sure enough, he is the veteran third admiral, he is really a monster, no wonder Bai Yu always wanted to turn against him. If it wasn't for the special use of the Seastone coins from Hiwa this time, I would have been able to break through it long ago. The little thief cat couldn't help but feel a little scared. I glanced at Enel, and sure enough, I saw the fear in his eyes. This guy fought with me before, but he still kept his hand and didn't use his full strength. Enel's face was dark, and Shukuji Thor felt humiliated. The two of them were in control of Lewang, and of course they knew how hard Kizaru was working, but the onlookers had no such perspective. In their eyes, that is, Kaiabu broke out, the light bomb rushed to the thunder net, the light bomb played GG. Speaking of how powerful Kizaru's shot was, it turned out to be useless anyway. This bastard is obviously playing a fake match. Coach, I want to report, there are fake people here. HMPH, this guy is indeed an undercover agent of Straw Hat Crew. Chief CP hummed proudly. With joy in his eyes, he finally found Marine's sore foot. Aokiji, wait, I must report it to the world government, so you don't have any good fruit to eat. People sit at home, and the pot comes from the sky. Quote question mark quote. Marine headquarters Aokiji, with a black question mark on his face. Who am I messing with? Kizaru is an undercover agent, what does it have to do with me Kuzan? Shouldn't I go to Sengoku if I have any questions? I didn't promote Kizaru, I'm just a mascot, and I've been stationed at naval headquarters since I took office. 0. Chapter 216. Fujitora of stealing chickens. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. Does this guy really have a relationship with Straw Hat Crew? But, with Kizaru's character, it shouldn't be. A suspicious look appeared on Fujitora's face as he rode on the gravel. Observation Haki, looking at Kizaru without a trace. Unexpectedly, Kizaru, a wretched uncle with a face full of hupai, also joined the rebellion. Mass egg, Fujitora couldn't help but exclaimed. Looking at the giant net of lightning flashing in the sky, Alexander is really on his shoulders. Gravity. Suppression. Full power. Gravity. Knife tiger. Boiling gravity spewed out, and while trying to pull the meteorite down, he quickly waved the sword in his palm. One after another, the dark and sure kill slashes were just hit by him as a flat. Bang bang bang. Between the heavens and the earth, there was a continuous 910 sound. Woohoo! Fujitora gasped heavily. The figure is no longer upright and straight, but half bent at the old waist, which can be barely supported by relying on the force of the sword. However, he looked exhausted and exhausted. I finally stopped them all. Doubt's sweat fell from Fujitora's forehead. Hurry up and hurry up. Finally, before this giant thunder net fell, he was intercepted as much as possible. Looking at the calm sky, Fujitora couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Feeling relieved, he finally let go of the tight string in his mind, and his feet were soft and he couldn't help but run after him. The gravel he stepped on could no longer be maintained, carrying his floating power, and staggeringly looked down and fell. Fujitora Admiral, watch out. A tall, burly figure wearing a mask, seeing the situation as not good, quickly put a shark knife in his hand, inserted it into the deck, and jumped up. Catch it. Thank you, Bastius. Falling from the sky, Fujitora, who reached the deck safely, tightened the purple bathrobe on her body, and moved towards the familiar figure beside her with a grateful expression. This is the duty of the lowly position, and you are too honorable. Even if there is no lowly position, you will never be in trouble. It is because the lowly position is abrupt. I was too careless, I didn't expect the strength of Straw Hat Crew to have reached this level. Fujitora shook her head, her face full of fear, and she couldn't help but put on a wry smile. Originally, I wanted to use firearms to suppress the power of Straw Hat Crew. Unexpectedly, stealing chickens would not be a loss of rice, but instead, he was consumed by others. It seems, this time it's up to you, I'm spending too much, so I need to adjust my breath for a while. Fujitora looked at the green cow beside him, and the ravines turned pale. Bai Yu, I'm sorry, I was useless and didn't stop them. The exhausted Nami didn't even have the strength to stand up straight, and his whole body slumped in Bai Yu's arms. There was a bit of depression on his heroic face. The attack that gave high hopes did not produce any effect, so the end of the anticlimactic. It really made her a little unwilling and uncomfortable. Idiot, you've done a lot, not only stopped Marine's artillery attack, but also made the laughing guy exhausted. It's been great. Nami, take a good rest. The next task, leave it to us. Bai Yu said with a serious face. He didn't lie, Nami was able to rely on his own strength, even with the help of Enel's power reserve, but how could he do it to such an extent? It was indeed great. That's right, Nami-san, don't worry. My demon legs will definitely kill them all. Pervert, chef, with your fancy fists and legs, it's better to protect yourself from Marine's attack first, and come back to life. Stinky fart green algae head, are you trying to fight? Okay, when is the time for internal strife, and if you have the energy, you should save it to deal with Marine. That's right, it's time for those Qinghai people to experience the majesty of God. Quote. It's decided. Let's go together. Let Marine see our strength, I'm the man who wants to become the Pirate King. Luffy's bloody shout was like sounding the horn of an attack. Everyone in the Straw Hats followed behind him and charged towards Marine, who was picking up the blue one after another. Except Usopp. Bai Yu glanced at Usopp, who was snorting and muttering for a while, as expected, with no surprise on his face. Listening to the intermittent voice coming from her arms, Bai Yu couldn't help reaching out and scratching her nose. With a tender face, he said, little stupid cat. Well, I'm not a stupid cat, no. Nami, who fell into a half-asleep state, frowned, dreamed and muttered to himself. Okay. No. Bai Yu, the corners of his mouth curved, and he chuckled. Although he really wanted to be like this, he and Nami had been getting tired of it all the time, but the situation of the artillery fire obviously wouldn't make him so comfortable. Looking at the endlessly war-torn sea, Bai Yu's softness in his heart gradually turned into steelmaking. Hado number 90 Black Coffin. Upso, Nami will be handed over to you, be sure to protect her. I'll go to support everyone first. Abandoning Kito's singing, a pitch-black coffin condensed directly, and after carefully placing Nami inside, Bai Yu entrusted her to Upso. On the other hand, he stepped on the moonwalk and rushed towards the sea without looking back. In the end, it's your own decision to take Wanokuni and take it into your pocket. You can't watch the show by yourself, but let your friends throw their heads and blood in the front. The Straw Hat Crew is out. The handsome green cow immediately noticed the changes on the battlefield. It's not surprising that they didn't make a move. The chance of being covered by artillery fire has passed. Inform all the sergeants to prepare for the battle. Fujitora's face was not surprised, and he issued an order as expected. With the thunder in the sky to suppress the artillery fire, after forming a firepower gap. If the Straw Hat crew did not seize this opportunity, they would rush forward to attack. 0.0 is just grinding, and it will be strange to wait until the firepower is covered again and start again. It's really a joke when artillery washes the ground. Be sure to send all the powerful Marine elites to stop the Straw Hat crew members separately, or let them intervene in ordinary sergeant battles, and the damage will be too great. As the green cow of the background board, he first offered his opinion. Although he thought that Straw Hat crew would not be a bloodthirsty person, Fujitora nodded along for the sake of completeness. In the end, he even sent out the heirlooms around him. Bastiu, go, too. Naruto, it seems that the terrifying battle is finally about to begin. The pirates right now are all monsters, and they dare to attack Marine head-on. Kizaru shrugged arrogantly, his face still with that wretched look. Chapter 217. The curtain is completely opened. Looks like I have to warm up too. Kizaru's pre-war warm-up looks like he's doing something serious. Humph. You should warm up well, so that you won't have a kick before you get a kick. Chief CP snorted coldly, and he started to get angry again. Anyway, the image has fallen to the bottom, and Marine has been disgusted to the extreme. He directly broke the jar and threw it. Have you ever tasted the feeling of being kicked at the speed of light? Kizaru grinned, revealing the yellow teeth inside, a proper wretched uncle. What do you mean? Chief CP's face was a little ugly. I mean, you can see and see now. Light speed kick. The photons accumulated in Kizaru's legs, and the shins shone brightly. Everyone can only see a flash of golden light, and this guy has disappeared in place. Damn, no, Kizaru, if you dare to touch me, the world government will not let you go. The head of CP, who was nervous, clasped his hands together and hardened into an iron body to block his chest, and roared 12 threats loudly, like the whining of a defeated dog. Caw. An explosion comparable to a high-yield explosive sounded from the sea not far away. What, are you okay? Finding that nothing happened in front of him, and the head of CP, whose arms were completely unscathed, looked a little sluggish unexpectedly. Just when he didn't understand the situation, Kizaru's wretched voice came from a distance. Tweet. I'm doing my best to eradicate pirates, isn't this the duty of our admiral? Why is the world government punishing me? One child at a time, and after eliminating 5 or 6 of the 9 red sheaths who made up the number, Kizaru turned around and showed a narrow smile at the CP chief. He also put on a puzzled look on his face, the wretched uncle who winked, and the person who looked at it couldn't help but feel that he wanted to give him a conflict of 2 punches. You want me? CP's face sank like water. Although it is covered by a mask, no one can see it. However, the gloomy tone fully explained his mood to everyone. Where does this come from? In order to show you the effect of the speed of light kick, I took a huge risk to send it. Kizaru shrugged, his face full of innocence. It's so scary, it's really worthy of being Wanokuni, the guy who became the 9 heroes of the Red Sheath, it's really harmful. The wretched uncle's good show is staged again. The screaming was so scary, and a little kid was slapped on his feet, and there was a slap in the face. Of course his Kizaru is made of soft persimmons. Even if he is a salted fish, it is an adult fish that paddles, definitely a salted fish that can be mercenary. Damn, CP Chief's eyes were about to burst into flames. Those who didn't know thought that he inherited Akainu's lava fruit. Enough is enough, let's go, if we delay, the situation will be unbearable. Fujitora gave Kizaru a deep look and said nothing. He pulled his cane directly, propped himself up, and dragged his body with the help of the fruit of gravity, and rushed to the battlefield ahead of the pack. Although I used the thunder net before, it took a lot of power. But just like that, let him watch the soldiers rush to kill on the warship, and listen to the cries and wailing in his ears. Fujitora said that he really cannot do. With his eyes closed, Kizaru was shocked by Fujitora's eyes. Putting away his condescending appearance and shrugging his shoulders, a rare serious look appeared on his face. Oh hoo, the new generation now is really a monster. Yada mirror. The mirror light came out of the hand of the yellow monkey, and after being refracted in all directions, it directly formed a track of light. After jumping, he directly used the orbit to perform light speed action, and scattered the 9 red pigs and disappeared into the sea. Cough, it's all up, I can't be idle. The green cow smashed his mouth and disappeared as an afterimage. In the blink of an eye, the only remaining high-level officers on the warship were the CP organs. Inside the Marine, even Vice Admiral followed behind the 3 admirals and rushed up to meet them. Sir, do you want to activate No. 0. The number 0 target is too large to be activated for the time being. First, take advantage of Marine's time to start accumulating power. When I give an order, you will immediately control and cooperate. The head of CP, who had calmed down, shook his head. The reason why he dared to be so arrogant, and even dared to face the Straw Hat crew directly after the scratches, and didn't take them seriously at all, was because of this secret weapon. Otherwise, it is impossible for the world government to be so relieved about such a big thing as the encirclement and suppression of the Straw Hat Corps, and only send their CP organization to come here. Humph. With this treasure, I can completely manipulate it. A mere Straw Hat regiment, it is not easy to capture. After the incident, Marine couldn't let it go, and he must teach them a profound lesson. Especially that Kizaru. How dare they ignore his dignity? After changing into the combat uniform, the commander of the CP who was preparing to fight with the help of Moonwalk suddenly stagnates. Sir, what's wrong? No, it's fine. Bring me all the pacifists in the warehouse. Almost forgot how scary the Straw Hat crew is. If he went there hastily like this, what if the group of damn Marines trapped him and were killed by a stray bullet? Although he is extremely confident in the power of number 0, but he has eaten on the Straw Hat crew, and he is still very confident in his own strength. Life matters. Seriousness and greed for life and fear of death are truly reflected in this guy. Gravity, knife tiger. Squeezing his body strength, Fujitora swung his sword forward suddenly, and a pitch-black slash came out. The gravity of the 910 on the track is extremely strong, it will hurt when you touch it, and you will die when you touch it. No one dares to approach it, creating a vacuum on the battlefield. Ichido Ryu Ihe Lion Elegy. Ling B's slash fell from the sky, like a divine sword from outside the sky, directly colliding with the mighty pitch-black slash. Countless sword energy escaped, and the surrounding gravel splashed. Let's end the unfinished battle now. He put the word Hidao in his hand and put the knife back into the sheath, Zoro said. He stared at each other seriously, his blood was boiling, as if he had finally met a good opponent. Green algae head kid, then let's keep fighting. Fujitora tightened her purple bathrobe, and there was no fear on her face. Instead of rejecting it because of excessive power consumption, he readily agreed to Zoro's proposal. It can hold Zoro, and it can save some Marines from dying. No matter what, let him do his best for this fight that shouldn't have happened. Not for the result, but for the soldiers at the bottom who don't know it. Fujitora sighed inwardly. Strong gravity permeated the court, completely kicking off Marines' offense. Pirates, Marines, world government, this three-party alternate drama has finally kicked off. Chapter 218. The Price of Talking Nonsense. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. Learn more. Yeah, it seems to be sent by a beautiful young lady. Beautiful, miss, this is a cake I made by myself, do you want some? Holding a plate of heart-shaped cake, Sanji appeared on the chaotic battlefield and blocked the way of the two beauties Marine. It is the two women Momoshiki and Tashigi who lost their famous swords. This is a battlefield delivery. You actually invited us to eat. Tashigi looked at Sanji with a foolish look on his face. Sanji shook his head, looking like a gentleman, tasting delicious food as irrespective of place, just like a real beauty, always regardless of age. Ah, is there such a thing? Tashigi was amused by Sanji's funny remarks. Tashigi, don't be so careless. This guy is black-footed Sanji. Momoshiki's cold voice reminded him from behind, lest his companions make plans inadvertently. Although this guy looks like an idiot, Momoshiki doesn't believe that he is a simple person who can be rewarded with hundreds of millions of Bailey's black feet. HMPH, compared to this useless hospitality, you should hand over my saber. Maybe I can spare your life. Momoshiki still looks cold, with long snow-white legs looming, and Oni-san is full of style. That supremely sharp knife was delivered in the hands of the vice captain. The things that have been in his hands have never been returned casually. Besides, didn't the deputy captain say that as long as you take the generation of ghosts in the hands of the 5 elders, he is willing to exchange with you? Sanji refused without thinking. Although he has no resistance to beauties, he is not so brainless to the point of obedience. Then let Bai Yu take your body. Momoshiki snorted coldly. Anger was written all over his cold face. It was as if Bai Yu had caused all the trouble and turned his anger on Sanji. Tashigi, stop talking nonsense with this guy, let's get on it together. Even if he lost Jin Kunluo's supreme sword, Momoshiki, who used to be Admiral's backup, still has his own pride. With excellent swordsmanship, she can't believe that she can't beat a mere black-footed Sanji. Hey, I really don't want to fight with these two beauties. Sanji shrugged. If it were normal, he might just admit defeat because of the beauty. But, this time, there are still friends. Even if it doesn't share much pressure for them, at least it can't hold them back. There was a trace of regret on Sanji's face. It's a pity that I agreed to Nami today. So, you should stay with me. Devil's Kick Iron Pan Spectrum. The ultra-high-speed kicking skills quickly bloomed from Sanji's feet, and the fast friction quickly ignited the air, forming a scorching red flame. The temperature of the red flame continued to rise sharply, and finally it emitted a strong colorful light, forming a dazzling continuous spectrum, and bombarded the opposite side. Have you seen the real chapter? Momoshiki snorted coldly, with anticipation on his face. Welcome. With her right hand clenching the pitch-black long knife, Ling Wushwang's swordsmanship was used by her. Dao Dao Janmang started out of thin air, and blossoming sword flowers bloomed in the air. Roger's blood of sin is still spreading in the sea. Under the handsome face of the green bull, the words he said made people want to get angry. Ace, that's exactly what he did, flame fist. Without a word of nonsense, Ace, who was touched by the reverse scale, directly punched out, the flaming flames lingered on his fist, and the scorching high temperature had distorted the air. Cough, it is indeed the continuation of the blood of sin, the strength is really not to be underestimated. The green bull armament hockey was wrapped around, and with absolute physical skills, the flames were scattered. Not to be underestimated. Then come and taste my true power. Great Flame Ring, Emperor Yan. With the blessing of Zero Mountain Fire power, Ace's subtle manipulation ability on flames has gone up a number of steps compared to before. Endless light and heat bloomed from his body, and a new sun seemed to rise on the horizon. Ultimate's high temperature is enough to melt steel into molten iron, and the huge volume makes the ship even smaller. Accept my anger. Ace held up the sun and roared hard with her blue veins exposed. With a good temper, he vented his anger to the world for the first time. Sure enough, things can be eaten indiscriminately, but words can't be said indiscriminately. If you don't believe it, just glance at the earth-colored green cow and you'll know. It's scary, it's a monster again. The temperature that even the sea can steam up feels even scarier than Akainu's awakening. The wretched uncle's voice sounded out of thin air, and you didn't even need to look to know it was Kizaru. He poked his head out of the photon fellow, with a rare look of shock on his face. From such a distance, you can feel the scorching high temperature in the air. When will Mera Mera fruit have such terrifying power? Green Bull, this guy is miserable. Kizaru couldn't help but stir up troubles. No matter what happened to Ace, it wasn't his turn to deal with it. If he loved him, he would be strong, and he didn't care about his business. Gah. Just after Kizaru turned into a photon, he was about to drill into the channel formed by the 8-foot mirror. The tyrannical thunder light suddenly rushed out and stopped in front of him. Bastard, you dare to keep your hands in front of me, come and feel the wrath of God. The enemy is particularly jealous when they meet. Self-proclaimed God, he found out that someone was fighting against him, and he actually dared to keep his hand in a big way. He would not feel happy. In his eyes, this was simply contempt for him. I hit you with only half the power. Enel, who felt despised, turned on Kizaru's ultimate move as soon as he showed up. 200 million volts Thor. The non-mainstream teenager who was wearing bell-bottoms in the blink of an eye, who was surging with electric charges, turned into an ancient thunder god who was the master of thunder and lightning. Thunder. He was far stronger than before, and without the help of the Ark's motto, he formed a huge spherical black cloud, like a ball of lightning. With a flick of his fingers, the situation changed, and a sudden thunder struck, but it was super in line with his position as the god of thunder. Nords, except, this guy speaks from time to time in the second. Qinghai people, come and meet God's punishment. This is your punishment for being disrespectful to God. Wow, it's so scary, as expected of a guy who calls himself Thor, it's really scary. Kizaru's calm face, and the words he said without hesitation, made Enel in the middle of the second year even more furious. Die. The thunder was overwhelming, like a world-annihilating verdict falling from the sky. Tiankong cloud soared. Kizaru held a lightsaber and met him without dodging or dodging. White fist. The wrist turned into smoke and spewed out. Peacock chain pot. The tail finger rotates with a peacock saw, constantly producing cutting scars. As far as melee combat is concerned, the attack can be said to be very terrifying, but unfortunately the target she faces is the smoke without substance, which is really difficult to cause effective damage. Like a punch in the air, no matter how fierce the attack is, it can't break the rules of the object. Chapter 219. The old-fashioned knight saves the princess. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. Nefeltari Vivi, the princess of Alabasta, I advise you to give up. Pure physical attack, it is impossible to cause harm to me. The smoke dissipated, and the rough figure of Smoker came out of the smoke. Although Luffy became stronger than expected, Yiki Juchin made it impossible for him to catch up. But, if it was just her, Smoker was 100% sure of winning. It sure is this guy. Vivi gritted his teeth, his face a little ugly. Just now, I used too much power to help Nami inflate the wind. The powerful skills I got from Bai Yu have no strength to use anymore. He could only attack by manipulating the peacock saw with physical skills. If he were to deal with ordinary marine masters, even Vice Admiral Vivi would be able to fight. But, it's actually him, it's just perfect. Give it up, I won't hurt your life. Smoker looked admonished, he really didn't want to hurt the girl. Don't even think about it. It's absolutely impossible for me to hold back Bai Yu. Take it. Peacock chain countercurrent. The peacock saw at the fingertips. With a swing of both hands against Vivi, the attack range increases by more than 10 times. The sharp serrated edge, sweeping the attack in the air, the cold light is faint, and it is definitely bloody after rubbing it. Pity. It was still the -910 cloud of smoke that greeted her. As Smoker said, as the holder of the Logia smoke fruit, he can turn any part of his body into smoke, and even if his body is destroyed by a pure physical attack, he can instantly reconstitute it with smoke. Pure physical attack, it is difficult to even hurt him, let alone defeat him. It's time to end. Smoker shook his head, getting serious. Bazy. White snake. Smoke vines poked their heads out of the smoke and blocked off towards Vivi. Smoker's wrist turned into a snake-shaped smoke and began to attack. Vivi's attack was completely ineffective against him, but his attack was unstoppable. The Lost War balance could not maintain its balance at all, and it soon tipped to one side. I can't be Bai Yu's drag. Vivi gritted her teeth and tried her best to use the peacock saw. Even if it didn't work, it couldn't stop her struggling unwillingly. Hado's level 11 thunderbolt. The whistling thunder light rushed from the sky and crashed directly into the misty smoke. Zilla. The electric light flickered in the smoke, and even if he abandoned the singing Kido, the power was still astonishingly strong. A face-to-face pushes Smoker out of the smoke. The whole person was paralyzed on the ground and twitched, and the short silver-white hair smelled of burnt protein. I'm afraid it's a taste of electricity. Bai Yu. Vivi looked surprised, looking at the man who appeared in front of him. After the joy of being rescued from the crisis, he couldn't help but reproach himself. I'm sorry, I made you come here to save me again. Idiot, this is originally my duty. Isn't it my duty for a knight to save the princess? Bai Yu carelessly rubbed the girl's head, feeling as soft as ever. Hey, the show of affection in public made the shy and introverted Vivi blushed. The crimson face, like the steam of boiling water, is constantly steaming upwards. You, why are you here? Nami, you don't have to take care of her. Intermittent words came out of Vivi's mouth. Because he was too shy, he couldn't even speak clearly. The Wanokuni plan was proposed by me, everyone was fighting, how could I still sit and watch the play? As for Nami, I have left it to Upso to take care of it. Liar cloth. Can he be trusted? Vivi's face was a little delicate, and it was really hard to imagine that the guy who made up his medical history and wanted to be a deserter could protect Nami. Don't worry. Trust Upso. Bai Yu's eyes were far-reaching, as if he saw the distant scene through the void. Boss, look at it. A group of CP members wearing white masks who were ordered to invade Wanokuni while the chaos suddenly shouted. What's it called? It's called a soul. The leading white mask was full of displeasure. This is an invasion operation. If it attracts the attention of those monsters on the battlefield, BCAA, it will be over. It's the woman who broke the warship and set fire to create a net of lightning. She is now out of the feint, and there is only one guy guarding her. Even with a white mask covering it, it is difficult to hide the excitement in his words. What is a big fish? This is the big fish. The great credit at your fingertips is simply a pie from heaven. Who? Hearing the movement, Upso held the slingshot in his hand and became vigilantly vigilant. Defense with a slingshot. Is this guy joking? Ha ha ha. Be careful, the straw hats don't have a simple guy. There seems to be a sniper in them. The Sniper King's bounty has exceeded 800 million Bailey. Maybe it is. Boss, you are too cautious. How could the Sniper King use a slingshot as a weapon? Makes sense. The leading CP members also think it makes sense. Am I thinking too much? Hey, the boy over there, get out of the way while the uncle is in a good mood, otherwise when we change our minds, you will be ready to die. The leading CP member cautiously made the last test. I won't go. You, just get out of my way. Upso held the slingshot with a crying face, and the bullets were loaded and aimed at them. I'm going to attack. The wrinkle on his face became a piece, and the weak air was released, and there was no imposing threat. Ha ha ha, is this guy a fool? There are actually people who can attack with a slingshot. It's like a child playing a house. Send. It seems to be really launched. Idiot, how is that possible? You really attacked. In the eyes of CP members watching the joke, a lead bullet that smelled of gunpowder was shot out of the slingshot by Upso. Must kill gunpowder star. Be careful, there are explosives. The leading CP member smelled a strange smell and immediately sensed something was wrong. Immediately shouted a warning. Too bad it's still a step too late. Even with the help of a slingshot, Mars still arrives in the blink of an eye. In a short period of time, the CP members didn't have time to dodge at all, so it was worth using the most proficient 6 forms. Iron body. The blood flow coagulated, and the stagnant body hardness was comparable to steel. If he were to attack with an ordinary lead bullet, he would probably leave a mark, but unfortunately, he was dealing with explosives this time. Caw. The explosion sounded, and a pungent smoke of gunpowder filled the air. The strong impact smashed the member 5 or 6 meters away. Puff. Scarlet blood, mixed with pieces of internal organs, sprayed into the sky from his mouth. Then, he fell heavily to the ground, not knowing whether he was alive or dead. Despicable. Guy, don't give him the chance to aim, let's go together. The leading CP member roared and rushed forward. Chapter 220. Upso's Great Reversal. Tempest Kick Quartet. Finger Pistol Bone Shattering Flow. Paper Arts Yuma. Moonwalk Longkong. The boss rushed over, and the subordinates of course did not dare to watch the play. The remaining members of the CP organization followed behind, and they all resorted to their own unique 6 styles. Woo, to die, to die, to die. Upso was crying, his face wrinkled and huddled into a ball, and tears flowed out, just like a fountain. People couldn't help but suspect that this guy was made of water. But, even so, with his fingers trembling, he still didn't have the eyes to run away. Stand with your legs on the ground, like the roots of a tree rooted in the dirt. I can't take what Nami has entrusted to me, absolutely not. Get the hell out of there. Upso roared in a grief-stricken expression. Kill the gunpowder star. A steady stream of gunpowder stars shot out from the slingshot in Upso's hand. Although his hands were shaking like a Parkinson's patient because of fear, gunpowder star's head was not affected at all. Hundreds of rounds and 100 hits are said to be small, and there are simply no false shots, not a single empty bullet. Pity. After all, the other party is a professional agent of the CP organization. After taking precautions, it is too difficult to use this kind of gadget to hurt them. The gunpowder star, filled with the smell of sulfur, before it had time to make a contribution, was broken into the sky by their various means, and exploded into fireworks a few meters in front of them. In addition to adding gunpowder smoke, there is no practical effect at all. Ooh, I don't want to either. Yes, you forced me. Upso cried even harder, and the snot bubbles were about to burst out. With a desperate look on his face, he took advantage of the time when the other party hadn't arrived, and picked up the golden mask in his arms tremblingly. What is this guy doing? Wouldn't he think that covering his face meant we couldn't see him? No, this mask looks familiar. It looks like the Sniper King in the reward order. This idiot, does it mean that he can transform himself by wearing the mask of the Sniper King? Idiot, you really transformed. As the mask gradually covered Upsuo's morning face, a cold and deadly murderous intent suddenly surged from his weak body. The mountain of corpses and the sea of blood came from him, like an Asura coming from hell. The stagnant bloody smell made it difficult to breathe. Yan Shuangying personality, open. Ka. A pitch-black bullet pierced through the void. When the leading CP member reacted, the scorching wind and waves caused by the bullet marks had already burned the hair on the top of his head into a few strands of curly hair. What? My gun is half an inch lower, and you will see the brains of your boss. Upso blew out the gunpowder from the muzzle and gave an explanation coldly. Flowers, bells and whistles, play tricks, give them to me. Cold sweat left his forehead, but the crowd gave him confidence after all. The leading CP member, with a ruthless heart, immediately used the system to accelerate and rushed forward. Numbers mean nothing to me. Dozens of pitch-black bullets, following Sen Ran's words, shattered the tranquility of the air. Bang bang bang. More than a dozen blood flowers bloomed on the CP members, one per person, without any waste. Like crows who sued for death, they announced their end. Why do people always think they can kill me? With the golden face, Upso slowly retracted the firearm to his waist, his words were full of helplessness. A scene of Shura floating in blood all over the place. The CP members even kept their eyes wide open until they died. They couldn't figure out how they could provoke such a terrifying killer just to pinch a soft persimmon. It seems that Upso lived up to my expectations. Bai Yu smiled lightly, as if he had seen the end of everything. Hey, Bai Yu, what are you talking about? Vivi leaned over curiously. It's nothing. Bai Yu shook his head and turned his eyes to another direction. After hiding for so long, it's time for you little mice to come out. Bai Yu's face was relaxed, with a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. It looks like he is holding a Chiju. Impossible, he couldn't have found us. It's definitely a fraud. Be careful to hide it. If you expose it, you'll be tricked. The guy lying in ambush is obviously very confident in his hidden skills. Huh, someone's around. Vivi's eyes narrowed. No matter whether it was useful or not, he instinctively put on the peacock saw, put on a fighting stance, and looked at the four directions with vigilance. Dot for flowers. Oh. She didn't meet the threat, just for the ga silk flower. Even if the strength is not enough, it is still possible to protect yourself as much as possible and not burden Bai Yu. Cough. It seems that the little mouse in the dark is not willing to take the initiative to come out. Bai Yu smashed his mouth, murmured a smile, and suddenly narrowed his eyes. Then don't blame my subordinates for being ruthless. Hado number 91 Senju 10 Tai Cannon. Bai Yu doesn't have any soft-hearted emotions towards the ambush who harbors ghosts. Raising your hand is Keto with a high brand name. Even if you give up singing, the power is still not to be underestimated. Dozens of rays of light appeared out of nowhere, and exploded in the direction of Bai Yu's fingertips. 0. The light seems to be thin, but the energy reaction contained in it is by no means inferior to that of large equivalent TNT, and it is all released, fearing that even the ships under the feet can be blown up and smashed. In the face of this, if you disagree with each other, you will use big actions. How could the guys in ambush still be able to sit still, and they all emerged from the corner? Joke. If you hide it again and take a hard attack, the grass on the grave will be 3 feet tall, and there will be a hammer in ambush. The fruit of humanity, the form of the great Buddha. The bright golden light lit up, and the bronze-colored skin of the great Buddha brought everyone a sense of peace of mind. Under the stalwart Buddha's body, it was finally dangerous, avoiding Bai Yu's Keto attack. How could you have discovered us? The latest optical concealment device invented by Dr. Vegapunk can obviously block even the sight, hearing and color. How could you? He thought that he was perfectly concealed, but he was easily seen through by the other party. Even if the chief executive of CP could not be called angry, he was truly terrified. Is there a traitor? The suspicious CP chief looked around suspiciously. There are always bad people trying to harm me. Found. Bai Yu shook his head and said casually, I just tried it out. He would not be stupid enough to tell others about his detection methods. Especially when the other party is still his own mortal enemy, world government. How did you recognize it? Bai Yu is not blind, and the obvious sign of the white mask can't help it. He simply doesn't say that he has seen One Piece. He is obviously a lackey of the world government. 0. Chapter 221. The Plan. Selfish revenge. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. Come on, try it out. Of course the CP chief didn't believe it. Cough. I didn't expect Marshal Sengoku to do this kind of work as a rat in the gutter. It really opened my eyes. Bai Yu didn't bother to talk nonsense with this idiot, so he pretended to be curious and looked at another familiar figure beside him. Cough. The old man has stepped down and is no longer Martial Marine, now he is just an idle person. Sengoku, who was caught on the spot, was extremely embarrassed. The scenery is going to be strong for a lifetime, but he was caught by the juniors to do this kind of thing. The thin-skinned Sengoku can't wait to find a hole to burrow into on the spot. Hey, I don't like to hear that. What does it mean to resign? Marshal Sengoku, you are in my heart, but you have always been Marine's strongest marshal. Bai Yu gave a thumbs up with admiration on his face. What the hell is this guy trying to do? When something happened, September 10th, abnormally, there must be a demon, and Sengoku, who felt wrong, quickly became vigilant. He wouldn't think that Bai Yu really admired himself. No matter from Garp, Aokiji, or rumors, this guy can't get along with the stalker, what's the trouble today? Sengoku frowned, and his face was heavy, and he frantically ran his mind called, the resourceful general. What the hell? What the hell can I do? Marshal Sengoku, have you forgotten the days when we sat down and had a good time together? How can you think of me like this? Bai Yu said innocently. I don't know, I thought he had suffered, what a big unjust injustice. Sengoku, can you tell me what's going on here? The most evil of the pirates, the replicator, Bai Yu, why do you admire you, the outgoing Marine Admiral? And, let's talk about it. The CP chief Sen Ran's words echoed in his ears. Sengoku's already nervous heart began to sink. By the way, this guy is definitely trying to sow discord. Sengoku, who guessed Bai Yu's purpose, not only did not improve, but instead fell further into the abyss. Because he has already felt someone's suspicious gaze through the mask. The plan doesn't have to be subtle, it just works. Apparently, someone has been tricked. When Sengoku's heart was cold, the voice of the general manager of CP, neither yin nor yang, began to sound. Sengoku, you shouldn't be a guy of this extremely evil generation, have some connections in private. The words in his mouth were suspicious, and the eyes in his eyes were even more dangerous. As if, it has been decided that there is some unclear relationship between Bai Yu and Sengoku. The head of CP was condensed. If Bai Yu could easily find their hidden location, it would be a good explanation. Sure enough, there is a ghost. Depend on. Feeling the increasingly suspicious gaze on his body, Sengoku couldn't help but curse secretly. Not afraid of god-like opponents, but afraid of pig-like teammates. You won't take such an obvious provocation on the other side. How could I have anything to do with this guy? Although I can't wait to kill this, hopelessly stupid guy. But in the face of the overall situation, Sengoku still suppressed his temper and denied it. Instigating discord, the CP chief gave Sengoku a noncommittal look. Then please, Sengoku-sama, go and face this guy. With your strength, you can definitely easily capture him and prove yourself. The CP chief's words sounded respectful, but in fact they became more alienated. Maybe he still has all kinds of calculations in his mind, but at least on the surface, Bai Yu's plan seems to have worked. Humph. Sengoku snorted coldly. Although he had already planned to take action with all his strength, being forced to prove it and taking the initiative to help himself were always two completely different feelings. Sengoku is also worthy of being the resourceful general, and in the blink of an eye, the intention of the CP general manager was reflected. Where does this guy think he is undercover? He is clearly seeking revenge. Aokiji and Fujitora are angry and have nowhere to vent. Now that you have the opportunity, don't just throw it all on yourself. Sengoku, who had figured this out, certainly didn't look good on him. Humph. I didn't expect that the dignified copy of Bai Yu would also be such a lip-smacking guy. Then let's see the real chapter under our hands. Don't give Bai Yu a chance to continue to entangle and talk, so as not to cause him to make trouble again and let himself be caught by the guys from the CP organization. Sengoku's face froze, and he shot directly with a straight face. The fruit of humanity, the form of the great Buddha. Shockwave. The glittering body of the Buddha appeared on the deck, raising his hand and giving Bai Yu a dazzling blast of air. Hado number 88. Flying Dragon strikes shouting thunder cannon. Bai Yu raised his right hand slightly, abandoned Kido who was singing and walked out. A huge straight beam of light radiated from the palm of the hand, and met the shock wave of the great Buddha without dodging or avoiding it. Boom. The two beams collided fiercely, rolling out powerful air waves, and the weaker ones were unable to even stand on the deck. As expected of Marshal Sengoku, his strength should not be underestimated. Looking at the beam of light that was constantly being compressed, Bai Yu spoke slowly. Hado number 90 Senju Tianji Cannon. Another shot of high-profile Kido let go, and dozens of intertwined rays of light came to help. Bang bang bang. After a roar, the power of the beam finally overwhelmed the shock wave of the Buddha, completely disappearing the Sengoku attack. Ahem. Marshal Sengoku really doesn't hold back. Did you forget so quickly that neither Sha Yuhei by Daming Lake, Chow Chow by Daming Lake? Bai Yu smacked his mouth and winked at Sengoku. What are you talking about? Sengoku scowled. After I said it, I realized that it was wrong. Damn, followed this guy's train of thought again. His heart sank, and Sengoku, who realized that something was wrong, rushed to take the shot before Bai Yu could speak. The body of the great Buddha moved, and every punch and kick could be called a natural disaster, and even the water on the sea was stirred up by the strong wind pressure. The best way to keep this guy from talking so as not to fall into his trap is gag his mouth with a fist. 0.0 It's a pity. Someone seems to have overestimated his own strength. Sengoku, Marshall, your old friend Chopper is still here, so you can't just disagree with one another because of the presence of outsiders. Bai Yu sideways dodged Sengoku's ferocious attack, picked up the group pet at hand and threw it away. The other party doesn't want to fight with you, and lost a cute pet to you, Chopper. It's you. Sengoku's pupils shrank. After becoming famous, Sengoku will not forget the first Waterloo in his fighting career. It was this cute pet that looked harmless to humans and animals, and the terrifying ability that he possessed after transforming, once suppressed and beat himself. It also has a strange ability, which can make the place attacked completely lose its intuition, just like being cut off by special means. Chapter 222. The interior of Marine is about to be hollowed out. Light. Prison cells worldwide. Monster strengthening. Chopper's body grew rapidly in the air, turning into the size of a giant in the blink of an eye. Sengoku is afraid of Chopper. Chopper, who has played against Sengoku and experienced his horror, is not afraid of him. Not daring to strengthen slowly, Chopper immediately started to expand. Carved hoof Sakura. Huge hooves fell from the sky, carrying the will to trample everything. Sengoku's eyes narrowed, and he didn't dare to meet him, so he hurried back and dodged. When the familiar green light appeared on Chopper's hands, the fear in Sengoku's eyes reached its peak. He directly abandoned the previous attack method of opening and closing, shrinking the bronze-colored Buddha's body, and turning around with Chopper in a square inch. He didn't dare to face the punches with Chopper at all, for fear of getting hit by another strange attack from him. The body is paralyzed and the ability to attack is lost. But he seems to be the best solution. In the eyes of others, that is not the case. Dignified Marine, the former marshal and owner of Renren Fruit, Sengoku, the Buddha of the world's top powerhouse. In the Straw Hat crew, the ship doctor turned into a ferocious beast, and he was stunned. The surrounding decks were devastated by the aftermath of the battle, but the two of them had 12 direct wounds on their bodies. Hundreds of rounds had passed, and they were still in a strange situation. I'm afraid this is not a fake game. Chief CP's expression gradually became more subtle. Could it be that my suspicions were correct, that Sengoku was really an undercover agent of Straw Hat crew? Or, Straw Hat crew has something to do with the revolutionaries, so Sengoku hooked up with them. A flash of light flashed in the mind of Chief CP. Garp the Fist intercepted Straw Hat crew before, scruples that Luffy was his grandson so he let go. Sengoku and Garp are inseparable from each other, and perhaps because of this, they have a close relationship with Straw Hat crew. With the questionable identity of Kizaru, that guy is Admiral who was promoted by Sengoku. Also, CPO members are said to have met, Garp, Sengoku and Dragon, Straw Hat crew drinking and singing together. Incredible, incredible, the interior of Marine was completely emptied by revolutionaries and pirates. As if he had discovered some shocking secret, the CP chief's breathing became rapid. I almost forgot about you while I was chatting with old friends. Bai Yu turned his head and looked at the bewildered white masks. Are you really close to Sengoku? What collusion is there between you two? The chief executive of CP stared at Bai Yu with a burning gaze. Collaboration. What are you talking about? I just admire the prestige of Marshal Sengoku, we are innocent. Bai Yu shook his head and denied it. Really? Chief CP's heart sank. If Bai Yu nodded, he might not be so sure. But Bai Yu shook his head in denial, which aroused the suspicion of a smart man. If Sengoku is innocent, Bai Yu wants to slander him, why deny it? Wouldn't it be easier to just admit that it's easier to splash dirty water? That leaves only one possibility. I found out that the situation is wrong, I want to clear the suspicion for Sengoku. Like the last-minute straw that broke the camel's back. The chief executive of CP, who was full of doubts about Sengoku in the first place, completely confirmed his doubts in his heart. This guy Sengoku, even if he's not an undercover agent, is definitely related to the revolutionary Straw Hat crew. Can't wait any longer. Chief CP's eyes narrowed and he made up his mind. Be sure to take advantage of this, before you let Sengoku turn the gun, Bai Yu takes this guy out, or else the plan this time will be completely over. If there is something wrong with the tasks given by the five elders personally, even celestial dragons, his immediate superiors, will definitely not be able to protect him. Pacifists, all out. Boom boom boom. Loud footsteps sounded on the deck, and at the corner of the ship, dozens of tall guys who were 90% similar in appearance to Bartholomew Kuma suddenly came. The body is huge, the ears are semicircular, the interior is like metal, and the mobile machine seems to have no self-consciousness. This is the reliance you dare to stand in front of me. Bai Yu glanced at him casually, but he didn't pay any attention to these dozens of artificial humans with high cost. If he had just entered the new world, he might even be a threat to him. Put it now, it's purely for food delivery. Humph, I won't know until I hit it. Pacifists, attack me all. Under the command of the CP chief, the artificial people raised their hands one after another and released a dazzling laser beam. Hado's 73 Double Lotus Kang Fire Pendant. After abandoning the chanting, the burning fire lotus bloomed from the air, collided with the laser rays, and made an explosive roar. Kick kick. With the cover of the roar of artillery fire, the CP chief's hand hidden in his sleeve quietly sent a covert message to the Juju Five Elders. That's it. Bai Yu raised his eyebrows. Bai Yu's eyes were self-evident as he looked at the scorched black marks on the pacifist's body. Being stinged by the bright disdain in Bai Yu's eyes, CP's lungs were about to explode. Although I just want to use it as a cover and pass on information. But he didn't expect the pacifists to be so useless. Dozens of androids joined forces to attack, and they couldn't even stop the opponent's move. Don't underestimate the power of our CP organization. Don't hold back, let me out all the pacifists. Full power on. Taste the true 910 strength of pacifists after being strengthened and transformed by Dr. Baker Panga. The blue veins burst out on the forehead of CP's forehead, and he roared loudly. Sing. It's like turning on a switch. The pacifist who was standing on the ground, suddenly a scarlet radiance appeared in his godless eyes. It's like turning on some key switch. The originally expressionless face began to gradually appear. It's like going from a puppet to becoming a real person. Are you alive? Bai Yu's eyes narrowed slightly, a little surprised. Unexpectedly, after losing the violent coon bear as a model, the speed of scientific research has intensified, and it has directly changed from transforming people to bionics. He is indeed the first scientist of One Piece. It's really Bai Yu, I can't help but be a little surprised, but that's all. 8 inner gates. View gates, open. Red steam rose from Bai Yu's body. His physique was not bad, but when he wanted to, he directly stepped into the monster level. Dash dash. Just rushing forward, even the 6 forms. Useless, Bai Yu's figure has already reached the level that the naked eye can't catch. Beauty Lotus. The fierce kick kicked out, killing the first 3 pacifists. So fast. CP Chief's pupils shrank. It was only by seeing and seeing, that the afterimage left by Bai Yu could be barely captured. Chapter 223. Playing the game. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. Teleport. The pressure of the meat bomb deflects the air, and the pacifist's huge body achieves the effect of teleportation in an alternative way, narrowly evading Bai Yu's attack. Call. Chief CP took a breath in fear. Not daring to stand in the same place, the whole person melted like a liquid, divided into 2 pools of unknown liquid, black and white, and dissolved on the deck. As if, Bai Yu's terrifying speed just now made him feel deeply uneasy. But he was obviously self-indulgent, and Bai Yu didn't pay attention to him at all. Instead, he looked at the pacifist with interest. Actually has the ability similar to the cocoon bear fruit. Is it one aspect, or all? If you take this back, Franky will be so excited. If 5th gate doesn't work, try 6th gate. Although it is not as good as Luffy's rubber physique, he can open the 8th gate at will, without worrying about backlash, but with everyone's strength Bai Yu, at least under the 7th gate, there is no pressure. 8 inner gates. Dead gates, open. Lily Lotus. The steaming red air waves turned into water-like air waves, which fit on Bai Yu's body. Actions that were difficult to capture with the naked eye in the first place are now even more quickly practiced with afterimages. Bang bang bang. The speed that exceeds the human body's reaction limit makes the pacifists not even have time to teleport. The huge body was instantly covered with large and small scars. In serious places, there were even electric sparks, which looked like they were about to explode. The product costing hundreds of millions of Baileys, in front of Bai Yu, is simply inferior to a child's toy, and has no power to fight back. Just when Bai Yu was disappointed and lost interest, a ripple in the air suddenly sounded. Yin healing bomb. Dash dash. Strange orbs popped out of the pacifists in their hands, and they, who were originally injured in varying degrees, recovered to their peak moment in the blink of an eye. Even the one with the electric sparks has become intact. The brand new one is like just walking off the running water shape, making people wonder if it was an illusion just now. Beck Panga is worthy of being the world government's #1 scientist, and it is amazing that he can copy the entire Shang's technology. Bai Yu said with a look of admiration. If it wasn't for Frank on the boat, Bai Yu would definitely stop at nothing to tie this guy to the boat. In the 21st century, what is most important? Of course, talent. Among talents, scientists are the first choice. Science and technology are the primary productive forces. Cough cough. Off topic, Bai Yu will not admit that he is coveting other people's artificial devil fruit technology. If he can swallow 180 devil fruits and enter the unique Shira skill, he is afraid that he will really take off. You're afraid. It's too late to surrender now. Kneel down and plead for mercy. Maybe I can consider not to push you into impel down. Just kidding. Bai Yu is the person named by the 5 elders. If he is really arrested, of course, he will be turned over directly to the Holy Land, Mariajoy. It would be strange to have it delivered to impel down. The CEO of CP looked at Bai Yu triumphantly, with a look of victory. No matter how powerful this guy is, the pacifist has the ability to reset his injuries indefinitely. If dozens of them are piled up, he can consume this guy to death. Hey, Bai Yu sneered, too lazy to pay attention to the guy who couldn't even see the form. Laughing. What are you laughing at? Could it be that you really think that the power of copying is inexhaustible, and the energy consumption can exceed my army of peacekeepers? The voice of the general manager of CP, Sei Li Neijin, came from all directions. Fearing that Bai Yu would capture the thief first and capture the king first, he had already used the power of the fruit to hide his body in all directions. My power is indeed not infinite. Bai Yu nodded. It's soft, it's soft. I'll make him kneel down to vent his anger later. However, before the smile of the CP chief appeared on his face, Bai Yu said the second half of his sentence first. But, with your pile of rubbish iron, you want to beat me. Who are you looking down on? What? Under the astonished gaze of the CP chief, the red steam rising from Bai Yu's body suddenly surged. The scorching high temperature distorted even the air. The overwhelming momentum, even if he is in the fruit ability, he can still feel a heavy heart, as if something terrifying is about to be released. 8 inner gates. Shock gate. Open. Elephant elephant. The transformed pacifist does have the ability to respond to the violent Kun bear fruit. Although the power is not comparable to the deity, it is only a weakened version, but when 10 or 8 are stacked, the effect is definitely only strong or weak. After all the powers were tested, Bai Yu was of course not interested in continuing to play Jiajia's games. Immediately, the 8th gate was fully opened, unlocking all restrictions in the body, and sent these artificial humans to the west. Anyway, it also has the ability to rubberize. Although it is not as impressive as Luffy, it has little impact. It is only the kung fu of 2 healing jutsu. Blood-red steam swept across. In an instant, the behemoth that had surrounded Bai Yu was completely gone. Under the terrifying air artillery bombardment generated by the high-speed punching, there was no chance for self-healing and treatment, and it was directly smashed into pieces, swaying with the wind and scattered into the salty sea breeze. Leaving only one of the most pleasing templates, which I intend to leave to Franky as a gift for research. Bai Yu holds the mentality of hitting one shot at a time, maybe he can come up with some interesting new inventions. Good. So strong. Seeing these Vivi, the whole person is not good. Although he knew that his man was strong, he didn't expect to be so strong. Bigmom, Kaido does not have an intuitive representation, but she can still perceive 1 or 2 as a peacekeeper. Teleportation, self-healing, radiation, shelling. Even if he is in a prosperous state, he is afraid that he can only entangle 1 or 2. If 3 or more Nords join forces, he will lose. But his own man actually killed more than 10 times in one move. The powerful gesture was deeply imprinted in Vivi's eyes, and it directly became the star eye of the fangirl. I have to work hard to become stronger. Sooner or later, I will rely on my strength to stand beside Bai Yu. Vivi gritted his teeth and swore secretly. Even with the faction, Princess Vivi, who is tired with Bai Yu every day, is like this. As the commander of the enemy's CP, the shock and panic in my heart can only be imagined. How can such power exist? This is the product of tens of billions of Baileys handled by Dr. Baker Panga. Even if the 3 admirals join forces, they can deal with it for a while. How can it be easily solved by one move? The commander-in-chief of CP who is lurking in the dark, his worldview is about to collapse. No, I can't wait any longer. We must start that thing as soon as possible, and if it is dragged down first, there will be no chance. Chapter 224. The Final Weapon No. 110. Even if it is hidden on the ship with the power of the fruit, and there is no physical manifestation, the CP chief still does not feel any security. This icy world seems to be filled with deep malice towards him. Even if the reality is not right, that thing hasn't been fully charged, and it can't achieve the strongest posture, the CP commander can't help but move his mind. Yes, that's right. As long as that thing can be activated, then everything will turn around. As long as this damned guy can be captured and brought to justice and the mission of the 5 elders is completed, the loss is acceptable no matter how large it is. His originally decayed face suddenly lit up, and there was a dazzling light in his eyes, like a drowning person who was about to grab the last straw. He kept muttering to himself in his heart, as if he was constantly persuading himself to brainwash himself. Hey, it's getting stronger. Standing with his hands behind his back, Bai Yu raised his brows, his face a little surprised. Chi originates from the world of Dragon Ball, and it is the unique energy of every living object, which symbolizes their own strength and weakness. In Bai Yu's perception, the Chi, representing the chief executive of CP has gradually become active. I have dealt with all the pacifists after the magic reform. This guy can still raise his fighting spirit. It seems that he is quite confident. Bai Yu's relaxed face showed a curious color. However, 910 didn't mean to relax at all in his hand, and he saw and heard the color covering the audience, and all kinds of moves were ready to go. Even the famous sword, Jin Kunluo, was quietly held in his hand. Despise the enemy strategically, and seriously wound the enemy tactically. He didn't want to capsize in the gutter and fall into the hands of such a rookie. Ha ha ha. Damn guy, prepare for your death. On the empty deck, a pool of liquid of unknown color gathered, surging upward to a height of 2 meters, after a burst of water twisted. The chief executive of CP, who has disappeared from direct sales, finally dared to show up. A white suit, a white cape, and a white bow tie, all dressed in plain white, with a black and white mask, looks quite abrupt. A strange spherical object was held in the palm of his hand, exuding an incomparably ancient charm. Is this your real reliance? It looks interesting. The final answer was finally revealed. Bai Yu looked over curiously. Interesting. There are more interesting things you didn't see. 0. On. Verification turned on. Authorization passed. Currently, 85% of energy storage has reached the lowest order of use. BCAA. A mechanical sound without the slightest emotion rang in the ears of the chief executive of CP. Although he had anticipated that the energy storage would not be complete, he couldn't help but feel a heartache. 85%. It's barely enough. Chief CP pretended to be calm. Not enough is not enough. If he dragged on to recharge, he was afraid that he would not even have a chance to shoot, and he would be found out by this guy Bai Yu, no matter how arrogant he was. The CP chief will not take it too seriously, he can definitely beat the monster in front of him. It's all to blame for this thing. Strong is strong, but every time you use it, not only will it be recharged, but the attack area will be limited after charging. The charging momentum is still not small, and on the COM C, it will be discovered in minutes, and it can only be hidden with the help of the aftermath of the battle, and it is barely so obvious. Humph. Prepare to meet your death. Even if the energy is not complete, this is the power of God. How can mortals resist it, accept your fate? All along, the arrogant CP chief suddenly showed an incomparably fanatical expression on his face. Like a mad believer in religious beliefs, with red eyes, the worshippers have lost their reason. Number 0. Attack form. Ding. The command passed, it is opening. With the cold and ruthless mechanical sound, the strange sphere held by the CP chief suddenly radiated a blurred brilliance. Click click. The sound of the gears turning sounded on the field, and the tightly fitted sphere began to crack. In the blink of an eye, the sphere of light in his palm expanded into a huge sphere several meters in size, entrenched behind him. Noisy. The sphere lit up with a faint blue light. A vicissitudes of ancient momentum, completely awakened from the inside. It's like coming back to life from the dead. A pair of ruthlessly indifferent eyes swept across the battlefield in an instant. Whether it is a contact battle on the coastline, a ship-grabbing battle on a warship, or an interception battle on the sea surface, even the soldiers at the very edge of the battlefield. I can feel that I am being watched by an unimaginable existence, from the inside to the outside, from the body to the soul, to be seen thoroughly. It's terrifying. The trump card of the world government is really terrifying. It's worthy of suppressing the existence of the world for so many years. Huang Sir's face became unusually serious. The dangling appearance is gone forever, and the wretched smell seems to have faded a lot. They were at the top and knew the world government very well. Under this gaze, they couldn't help but shuddered and got goosebumps, let alone other people. What was that? It was seen through from top to bottom. So, that is, our ultimate weapon. Hard, no wonder the admirals are. Oops, the vice captain will be fine. Qinghai, apart from Bai Yu, there are such terrifying things. No, there is an ambush. This must be Marine's conspiracy, hurry back and protect Bai Yu. A sense of trembling emerged from the bottom of everyone's heart, as if there was a higher dimensional existence that cast their eyes on them. The members of Straw Hat Crew, ignoring the entangled enemies in their hands, unleashed a big move in a heartbeat, forcing their opponents back, and galloping away in the direction of Bai Yu regardless. It's not that they have no confidence in Bai Yu's strength. After all, Bai Yu, who unifies all their strengths, is definitely the strongest existence in the Straw Hats. It is purely because the line of sight that ignored everything just now made them feel too terrifying. Emperor Yan, Great Flame Ring, Extreme. Like another sun-like flaming ball, like the golden crow that was shot down, it fell from the sky. Gollum. The blue water was boiled and bubbling, and where the flames fell, everything was ashes. Burning mountains and boiling seas is nothing more than that. As expected of the son of that guy Roger, what a terrifying flame. On the flaming ship, a handsome figure poked out, looking at the figure of Ace galloping away, his face seemed to be fearful, and he seemed to reminisce. Looks like I was careless. Green Bull patted the flame that burned to the corner of his clothes, looked at the black marks on the cloak, and couldn't help but laugh. As that thing activated. I didn't expect the determination of the world government to be so firm this time. It's really rare. After the green cow seemed to sigh with emotion, the whole person turned into an afterimage and followed. Chapter 225. All parties react. Light. Shameful photos of athletes during competitions. No, Boss Bai Yu is in danger. Water-style super water barrier. Feeling the terrifying pressure in the distance, his expression changed. Not wanting to entangle with Marine next to him, his hands quickly formed a seal. Inspires the sea water to form a water curtain that cuts across the heavens and the earth, blocking the Marines from the outside. Without looking back, he rushed in the direction of Bai Yu. Look at me. Franky Iron Fist. Boom boom boom. A cannonball attack that doesn't match the name of the move, and once it appeared, it caused a lot of casualties to Marine. However, Franky has no interest now, and takes care of the opponents who are all over the place. Instead, they start directly. The flight mode of the mech was changed, and it rushed towards the center of the strongest energy response. Hypnosis Song Wheel Dance. Dunjia swept all around, and with the appearance of a large number of wonderful musical symbols, many Marines with ordinary wills around them all fell into sleep. We should go too, to support the deputy head. Ming, let's listen to my wonderful music together. Brooke shook his bones, his punk-style clothes, and jumped towards the summoned bone dragon on. Directly driving the bone dragon. Flew in the direction of Bai Yu, followed by the Great Emperor and the bones. Two beauties, it seems that we don't have time to talk today, so we can only wait until next time. Sanji withdrew his long legs that were burning with flames. A standard gentleman's etiquette came towards Momoshiki and the two of them. What? Tashigi didn't react. Momoshiki hurriedly launched a sword move and chased after him. Have you finally activated that move? Fujitora, tightly wrapped in a bathrobe, used gravity to shift away Zoro's swordsmanship. Invisibly fixed in the distance, with a thoughtful look. Humph. It's time to end the battle. Zoro slowly retracted the two long swords in his hand, a look of determination flashed across his face. The situation on the captain's side is not right, and the fight cannot be continued. 3 swords of profound truth, 3,000 worlds. All kinds of famous swords spun in Zoro's hands like a windmill. Even Fujitora didn't dare to make a hard connection at all, and could only use the gravity fruit to distort the gravity parameters and avoid the edge for a while. It's this moment. One knife flow yan. Go back. The dazzling light of the sword started from the air, like a river of spring water flowing in the air. Not good. The gravity knife. Tiger. Fujitora, who saw and heard the color covering the audience, noticed something wrong on the spot, and used the little fruit power left. Poured into the sword, strenuously slashed forward, and met the light of the sword. Sing. The light of the sword is intertwined, and the spring water is broken into one place. No, the strangeness in the hand. Fujitora, who has experienced the touch for a long time in the battlefield, noticed the abnormality. This kind of feeling is not a collision of swords at all, it is clearly a blow. The attack is fake. So it was. How could he feel Zoro, who was drifting farther away in the sight of seeing and seeing? Fujitora shook his head with laughter. Unexpectedly, the dignified admiral was afraid of a kid. It was only after others ran away that he realized that he had been wanted. Green algae-headed kid, did you even go? It's a pity that this thing is not something that can be dealt with by the number of people. Fujitora sighed faintly. The justice cloak behind him was hunting in the bloody sea breeze. His figure also disappeared in place. Marine Corps, on a warship responsible for logistical supplies. 365. 360 667. Oh, my donut. The record is finally about to be broken. Nay, sip a donut. Garp with dog hair, even in wartime, Ishin is still immersed in his own donut battle. There is no point at all, the tension of the war. Anyway, he's a wounded man. Swallowing the donut, Garp squinted his eyes comfortably, looking very comfortable. But in the slits of his eyes, he never left the window of the cabin. Damn, did you activate the thing so soon? Judging from the time, it should have not reached the limit of charging, and Bai Yu should be able to resist it. Probably. Maybe. After all, this kid, but after taking the full blow of him and his grandson with his bare hands, he can keep his face and breath unscathed, and maintain an unscathed character. However, this time he is facing that thing. The world government's trump card of repression is that thing called God's power. Garp's heart is rarely raised, tossing and turning uneasy. Naruto. Those pirates seem to be charging towards that wicked man, worthy of being the head of the wicked. It looks like they can catch them all in one go. Opposite Garp, an upper body was shrouded in shadows, making it impossible to see the appearance. The man made a sound. In the logistics cabin far away from the war, he can accurately grasp what is going on in the battlefield. Obviously another will see. Hockey, a pervert applied to the level of Enel's mind. Woo. Garp turned a deaf ear and focused on dealing with the donut in front of him. He didn't even bother to talk, and directly regarded the other party as a ball of air. Ah, the man who ate the nest, instead of getting angry, let out a chuckle. Garp, if I read it correctly, your grandson seems to be too, those who rushed. One of the worst of the past. Grandson. I didn't want to be One Piece's grandson. Garp curled his lips dismissively, not taking the man's words to heart at all. 368, 369, 370, one after another donuts were thrown into Garp's mouth one after another. Out of the window, Ishin on donuts. He directly ignored the mysterious man on the opposite side. Ah, you really can sit still. At this level, you are still in the mood to eat your donuts. A strange long knife shone faintly in the man's arms. I'm a wounded. See, did you see, these are all injuries suffered by Bai Yu's group. I didn't care about the other party's irony, Pu rolled up his sleeves with a Tsunere look on his face, revealing the injured part of his arm. Well, if you have the ability, you should go. I'm a wounded person. If you need to cultivate, you must not be. While chewing a delicious donut in his mouth, he overtook it vaguely. Look at my violent temper, I just can't stand it. Don't worry, there will be time for me to shoot. Holding the long knife in his arms, God. If the secret man has any pointers. Cut. Garp looked disdainful, but his heart was secretly nervous. Luffy, there must be nothing wrong. Boy, Bai Yu, you must be smart. 0.